So good afternoon, everyone. For those who are here on site and for those who are online who will be watching us. So we will start now the presentation of our guest. Uh, Before we start, I would like to introduce, of course, our guest. Okay. So our guest for speaker for today is Dr. Charita de los Reyes. She is a professor of history at the Department of History and Philosophy, College of Social Sciences at UP Baguio. She finished AB Political Science in 1989, of course, magna cum laude, and an MA in Education, major in Administration and Supervision in 2001, cum laude at St. Louis University, and another master's degree and a doctorate degree in history were both obtained from UP Diliman in 2004 and 2014. She has been a recipient of a Fulbright Visiting Scholar Grant at the Elliott School of International Affairs, Sigur Center for Asian Studies at the George Washington University, Washington, D.C. on 2011 to 2012, and a Fulbright Exchange Visiting Scholar under the Senior Advanced Research Program at the Department of History, the University of Maryland at the College Park in 2017 to 2018, and another research grant was obtained from the Center for Southeast Asian Studies, the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor in 2017 under the Academic Sharing Grant. Her research interests include the history of education, institutional history, local history, urban history, gender and women history, social and cultural history, and colonial history. For today, we would like to welcome our guest, Professor Charita de los Reyes.
Thank you, Ma'am Esther. So, thank you very much, Engineer Stephen Zhang, for having invited me to this occasion. Ma'am Esther Wahaina, who has also given us the space to be able to share the findings of our studies, our research findings. I'm also very grateful that there are avenues such as this that would focus on Baguio City. We already celebrated our centennial, and yet we have to do much. We have to do much about our city, and really have a lot to protect. Especially that it's a heritage city. Not only buildings, not only spots, but rather the city as a whole is a heritage city. I was invited by Stephen, let me call him by his first name, to talk about my dissertation. In fact, this was done in 2014, and I haven't had the time to sit down to write a book on this, but rather I just lifted some materials from my dissertation to be able to publish some articles. Like for instance, educating Chinese and Mukimok, the Ibaloy at the Buwa School from 1901 to 1940, which has been published by UP Baguio's Chiva. Okay. And then another one, which Mr. Zhang has recently uploaded in the net for the nth time, I guess, is on the town gown relation, the town gown linkage, Baguio as university town, and I dated it post-war Baguio. Now, let me just say something about my dissertation. I really have to be very apologetic that 2 hours will not be enough to be able to discuss a 2-volume work. My work is really that thick, and it's really a compendium of several sources I really got in my research stint elsewhere. So, just to present you a bird's eye view of what I did in my dissertation, I will just lift for this afternoon session a discussion on Baguio's pioneering schools. So that's just what I will be focusing now. Perhaps later in the near future, should you want to invite me again to talk about another part of my dissertation, then I can do that. I will be most happy to share them with you for free. Okay, all just for the love of Baguio. So this is the title of my dissertation, no? Baguio City from Colonial Mountain Resort to University Town. What prompted me to talk about University Town? When I was taking up my doctorate degree in UP Diliman, I enrolled in an urban studies course as my in geography. Geography was my cognate, and I was challenged by the statement given by my professor, who said that Baguio can never be a university town. It's so small. That puzzled me. I said, most of the institutions in Baguio have employees who graduated from the universities, no, in Baguio. And there are also a lot of students from the lowlands who studied in Baguio who prefer to work in Baguio. So for me, why is it that we have to curtail, no, this kind of notion? Now, I came to understand that the definition that they gave for a university town is a Western construct, that at least 1/4 of your population should be college students. And in our case, because it's a very small town, 57.49 square kilometers, you know, deserve not to be such. The fact that many of our institutions here cater to schools. We have a lot of let's say bookshops, no, cafeterias, apartels, no, dormitories, all this, the jeepney line, no, that ply around all these institutions is already clear proof, no, that we are really a bustling university town. All right, so let me start just to present to you a bird's eye view of what I worked on. My chapter 2, this is actually chapter 2, no, that's building Baguio from ground up, constructing the image of an American mountain resort. That's 1900 to 1941. This in itself is a topic in itself, no? So whenever I get invited by the Department of Tourism to give a lecture on tourism, no, in Baguio and how it was started, this is the chapter that I always share with them, and yet I have not even published this yet. In fact, it includes a lot of toponyms, Ibaloy toponyms, of how these American names, no, of Baguio used to have Ibaloy names, no, and that's also in this chapter. So, and then I have chapter 2, that's private ventures and missionization, the emergence of private schools in Baguio. That's from 1906 to 1973. And then part 3 is schooling and indigenism, American initiated government schools in Baguio, 1900 to 1941. Part 4 is from Orengao to the Baguio Teachers Camp, the origins of a convention city. Many teachers come here, no, during the summer. The Bureau of Education made Teachers Camp as their clearinghouse, and that's the reason why Baguio has become Chautakwa. No? I mean, that's another a publication soon, no? The metaphors to describe Baguio, and one of it is the Baguio Chautakwa. Chautakwa meaning summer school. So they usually bring people, it's an Indian term, no? Okay, for summer school. And then I have the 5th one is scoping the terrain of education during the Commonwealth and Japanese period. So this is also interesting because we used to have not only a Chinese school, you still see the Baguio Patriotic School here, but we used to have a Japanese school, no? Okay, so where Spirits Disco is before, it became Good Taste, and then later on there's another one along going to La Trinidad Benguet, the Lukban Elementary School, that used to be the site of the Baguio Japanese School. And then we also have another school, that's Camp Bado Dangwa. It's in La Trinidad, but that used to be where our Brent school teachers and students went as internees. So that became a Camp Holmes internment school. And after the war, it was now converted into the Camp Bado Dangwa. Okay? So that's the one. And then, of course, Baguio as university town, which started 1946. So that's actually the article that Stephen has uploaded several times. No? Now, Of course, we have a lot more, no, that happened after this, no. You have the Koreanization of Baguio. That's the term now. A lot of Koreans have come up for education purpose. That's one, no, as other than religion. But that's another thing, no, that we have to document. I have one colleague in the University of the Philippines, no, who used to work with us, Professor Barros, no. She wrote, no, an article on the Koreanization of Baguio. And I think that's another topic, no, that we can pursue later. So for this afternoon, my focus will only be on Baguio's pioneering schools. I will just be lifting this from my I just lifted this from my dissertation, actually from different chapters, no? So that we'll have an idea of what were the pioneer schools in Baguio. Some of them, you'll be surprised, have existed but are now long gone. And there are reasons for their closure or being phased out. So let's start with my very brief presentation. Most of what you will be seeing are not narratives, but what you will be seeing are pictures I got from the different archives I've been to in the United States, and of course in the Philippines too. No? Others I have culled from convents I visited, no, because that's the only available data that they have. So that's the problem. We still have to introduce to different structures or institutions the so-called institutional history. So we have to do that. So we will start with a brief introduction of how education started in the Philippines. My focus here is on the formal education. And then we have pioneer schools as initiatives of, let's say, private individuals. And then we have government-initiated schools, no? And then let's just give a very brief conclusion. So of course, I think you have already seen this picture of Baguio, no? I've acquired this from the American Historical Collections, no? At the Ateneo de Manila University, showing us how Baguio looked like then. Actually, it's just the center of Baguio that they've shown here. And I think Mr. Ian Morley, in writing his book, also used the same photograph, no, because he frequented Ateneo de Manila. So this is another picture, no, of old Baguio. So it's a panoramic view of a mountain ridge near Baguio. That's 1900. So thanks to the University of Michigan Library, no, for having given these materials. So I acquired them for free. This is one thing nice about doing research there, because it's for free. Unlike here, the moment you enter an archive, you have to pay, no? You have, the moment you enter Ateneo de Manila, aside from the entrance fee, you still pay really for digitized materials. And the last time I visited Ateneo, I had to get just one picture, and it cost me, for one picture, 245 pesos, right? So it's really expensive doing archival work. So the students who do history, I always ask them, do you have funding, right? Are you a full-time student? Because when you do archival work, you really have to allocate some time for it, no? It's a serious work. Because sometimes you get frustrated having to request for 2 bundles, and after finishing 2 weeks now of doing research, you just find one precious item, one precious document from it. Alright, so this is these are pictures, no, I got from different sources. So the second one is also in 1900 from the Bentley Historical Library. So I am happy to see Ma'am Bridget over there, no. So Ma'am Bridget perhaps can help us, no, also in reconstructing our pioneer schools, no, because as a matter of fact, it's so difficult to publish it now because mainstream history books have already come up with their, you know, apparently a definitive history of education in Baguio. But, you know, if you revisit some sources, other sources, it seems like there's something controversial about it, no? So there has to be another rereading, no, of our history. So again, these are other materials I got from the Library of Congress. So, and then the other one is from the Thomas Family Papers. Mr. Beers, Dr. Beers Thomas used to be the very first surgeon, no, who set up what we call the Baguio Sanitarium in 1902, no, February 6, 1902. So I got this from the Cecil Green Library in Stanford, University. So that's the next picture below is from the Bureau of Insular Affairs. Of course, if I will have to complete, this is the so-called provenance of our source. You find all this in the internet. Google them in the Google image and they will all come out. But as a historian, you just don't get contented with that. We are after provenance. Where did you get that? What is your main source? You cannot just simply say Flickr. Okay, but I used to do that because I really cannot locate the provenance. All right, so that's the reason why, but this is Baguio, and yet we're still forced to go out because the sources are there. Although we have here the graduates, we have here the people whom we can interview, perhaps, but sometimes we corroborate, sources, with others. So we have here the BIA, and BIA stands for Bureau of Insular Affairs, that you will find in the National Archives and Records Administration. We have two NARAs in the US. One is in Washington, D.C., and the other one is in Maryland. And the civilian records are in Maryland, College Park. All right, these are other pictures of Baguio from the Library of Congress. Okay, and then another from ADMU, that's Ateneo, the one below. And then this one is another picture. It's very much similar to what you will find in the Smithsonian Institute. So they have this picture also of Baguio. And of course, a lot more pictures to show. Now, I have several maps I got also from there. They have a cartographic section. But this seemed so fascinating to me because it was just inserted in one of the boxes, I found. This was 1907 map, by Parsons. Of course, I was looking for the Burnham Plan. Unfortunately, I've been to the Newberry Library in Chicago and I never saw it. They just gave me a facsimile of the Burnham Plan. But the entire plan I saw at the National Archives. All right, so if we trace the educational history of the Philippines, formal education, it started on September 1, 1898. Now, actually, that's the start of the military educational adventure. Why do I say military educational? The pioneer formal school teachers were actually soldiers, who an hour ago killed parents of young kids. And after an hour, they had to set aside their guns and they started to teach these orphan kids the alphabet, and other Spanish. They capitalized on Spanish catons, primers, and the like. So March 30, 1900, General Otis established a Department of Public Instruction under the direction of Captain Albert Tag. Of course, this history you can already readily find in our history books, Okay. But January 21, 1901, Act Number 74 of the Philippine Commission created the Department of Public Instruction, thus the beginning of the institutionalization of a public school system in the Philippines. Now, I just got this symbol, it's a seal, It's a seal of the Bureau of Education in the so-called Philippine Islands. It's a very funny experience I had because I had difficulty at first looking for sources on the Philippines. They don't recognize the Philippines, but if you type Philippine Islands, you will find more. So what they know is Philippine Islands. Even if you try researching at the Library of Congress, try it online, but you can get our digitized materials. You have them. Newspapers have already been digitized. Just try www.loc.gov. That's the URL, Universal Resource Locator. And when you type Philippines, you'll not find that much. But try Philippine Islands, and you'll find a lot. Okay. All right. So let's just have some introductions here. So on July 4, 1901, the control of schools was passed into civilian hands. In the case of Northern Luzon, about 120 schools were already founded by then. So some were, of course, a continuation of our Spanish schools. When I went one time to the National Historical Commission in the NHCP, I found pictures of the Trinidad Agricultural School, and it was dated 1904. So you still have them there, no? And they were made of a tid house, no? So made of kugon grass, etc. So it's still there, no? Okay. And then come October 1, 1901, we have the enactment of Act Number 253, which created the Bureau of Non-Christian Tribes. Of course, the Bureau of Non-Christian Tribes have morphed, no? So it became an ethnological survey, and then eventually it became Bureau of Science, no? Okay, and then these are readily downloadable now in the net. So come August 23, 1901, you have now the arrival of 600 thomasites. And this is one thing that I would like also to demystify now in our discussion this afternoon, because one pioneer educator in Baguio is said to be a thomasite, but when I looked at the list, her name does not appear there. I'm actually referring to Alice Kelly. All right. So, what were the objectives of the Bureau of Non-Christian Tribes? No, I'm singling this out because it's pertinent, not to our educational experience in the region. It was actually David Barrows, no, who became then the Director of Education and Chief of the Ethnological Survey. For some of you who are interested, no, to find out the collections of David Barrows, you can go to Berkeley. University of California in Berkeley, because he has his collections there. And it's nice to know, it's good to see, what policies he has had there, whatever he has done during his time, is in his collections. And then, of course, the objective was to teach the population to use English as a primary language. But in our history books, you know that Spanish was still considered to be the language of the elite. Sorry to say that, until 1934. So even Rojas, even Quezon himself spoke proficient Spanish, but broken English. That's what they say. So they also established. They also dreamed to establish industrial schools and to secularize the schools. All right. So this is a picture, which we lifted from the Churchman, from the Bureau of Insular Affairs, and it shows us, the St. Louis Exposition in 1904. Again, there's a very large collection in Missouri. Of course, it's nice to see this. There were already publications initially on the St. Louis Fair. So Nilig Malika, But Dr. Patricia Afable already came up with this, and some also in UP Baguio has come up with a research on the St. Louis Fair and how how our Igorotes, brothers and sisters, were brought to that St. Louis Fair. So in this, you see a model classroom, where they put together what they consider as negrito. Actually, they call this the pugots among the Ilocanos, the Igorotes, the Tingianes, and the Moros, in a model school, which they consider as an experimental class, where Philippine exhibits, and as well as ethnological exhibits were done, including, of course, I'll not be trivializing that here, dog eating, etc. All of these were done there. Okay, it's not the topic, it's not my subject matter this afternoon. So the very first schools in Baguio were actually the following, according to what documents say. So we have the Baguio School, founded in 1900 by a military guy, that's Lieutenant Clarence Patrick. Lieutenant Clarence Patrick founded the very first school. Now there's a debate here in Baguio City saying that Lieutenant Clarence Patrick put up the very first Baguio Central School. That was what they were saying, But it doesn't say so, in the documents. It simply says Baguio School, because there's another reference to a central school. And then we have here King's Camp School, King's Camp School, that's 1901, and it was founded by a so-called Mrs. C.H. King. Okay, Mrs. C.H. King, I saw her name in the list of early pioneer teachers, but they are more mining prospectors kasi, these ones. They also owned a mine. And the location of the school, I really cannot, I really don't have time to look for it now, but when I asked my colleague then to come up with a geographic information system map of the schools, no, she was able to picture it, but I don't know where. It says the school was located somewhere in along Benguet Road, no, and in the so-called the Ridge. I don't know if Ma'am Bridget is familiar with the so-called the Ridge, they quote and unquote. And then later on, we have another school by Mrs. Kelly, Alice McKay Kelly, that's 1901 to 1940. Why 1940? And I discovered that in the exchanges between James Halsema and Erlyn Ruth Alcantara, no? I saw their exchanges in the MacArthur Memorial Archives in Norfolk, Virginia, that the reference for what Abua School has now continued with the Pacalso Elementary School. It's the Pacalso Elementary School. So that's the former Bua. And then we have two Buas. No? The first one was for Igorot Boys. That's from 1901 to 1906. And then and then 1906 onwards, they are now transferred to the Baguio Trade School along what? It's now Teachers Camp, the Orengao. That used to be where the Baguio Trade School now was located. And if I will read the documents, that was actually what they were referring to as Central Provincial School. That was what they were referring to. And if you're going to look at the history of City High, Baguio City High, they moved their foundation day, right? It used to be 1919. And then I think the NHCP assisted, which I could also validate because I saw that. They moved the foundation date of this very first secondary school here, which also used to be a normal school when it was a teacher's camp, on June 20, 1916. But when I looked at their basic rules and regulations, they say they started as the Baguio Trade School. If they're talking about Baguio Trade School, then it should not be 1916. Not unless they're referring to City High as the first secondary school. But if it's the Baguio Trade School, it should have been much earlier, 1902. That's how old supposedly Baguio City National High School, but it's not that location, it's not the school that you find there now, no? So it's in the Orengao. And then we have the Bua Industrial School for Girls, that's from 1906 to 1940, so they took over. Now this was validated, no? When I went to the rare book section of the National Library, in the Philippines, no? In Manila, I found this document, no? And they digitized it at one time and uploaded it in the net. I was fortunate to have downloaded it, but now you won't see it anymore. No? So they got rid of it. Every now and then, I advise you, if you're a history buff, you please visit, no, the National Library of the Philippines because they have digital collections. Last time they had a very nice photograph, not photograph, how do you call this? Postcards of the Amor Solo paintings, and it has reference on Baguio City. How Baguio City was projected in postcards, and it was done by not Manansala, Amor Solo. It's there. So I hope it's still there. But what they have last time is the Acta de Proclamacion, de Independencia de Pilipinas. That's the primary source on the Philippine independence. That's what they have now. It changes every now and then. So the Baguio School, according to this document, was founded in 1900 by a certain Lieutenant Patrick, who was a soldier teacher. And apparently, he had major problems. According to a few documents I've seen, Lieutenant Patrick had problems regarding his housing and how this could be maintained, And he was commended, however, for the surprising work he has done in the short time he had been teaching in Baguio. So this is a document you will see there. And it says here that during its first year of establishment in 1900, he has, 30 pupils, Okay, 30, not unless this is how we do it now, no? That your class is expected to accept 30 students, but it could be below 30. It could be a possibility. And where was it located? It says here, where the Baguio Central School is now located. That's what they're saying here, no? In the document. And then it started with a primary, that's grade 1, no? And then what was the general emphasis of instruction? To teach the Filipinos how to speak the English language and to prepare them to be good citizens in the future. Okay, that's what it says. And just below is the Brent School, right? Founded in 1909, no, by Bishop Brent. And in their present enrollment says, no, that was from 1950 to 1953, no, but it was of course established much earlier. Male 75, female 53. Now, it was in 1925 when Brent started to accept girls. It used to be a pure a school for males. Now it's a Korean school, Brent. Okay, so it offered elementary and secondary, and they emphasized the development of, it says here, Christian character. So looking at Burnham and Anderson's map, no, in 1905, and it was also, I also saw the same map in Dichoso, no, Dichoso's map of 1985. This was where they situated the Baguio school. So I just inserted it in red, no? And that was the only school that you see then, no? Okay. So in fact, James Halsema refers to this school as the Baguio School for American Boys in his book. But if you're going to check, this is by another author, no, Reyes, who we see here, I cannot say it's a historical photography, no, but it's an actual picture, and below it is a map, no, which will show us how the schools look like then, no. My interest is only the school, kasi. So if you take a look at the they say it's high school, that's the Baguio Central School. If you take a look at it, is it? What do you think? The one I inserted in red, I encircled in red. It's a 7. Is it the Baguio Central School? Number 7? Is it? Yeah, and then they referred to that as high school. All right, let's talk about the Mrs. King School. I got this very nice documentation on the Mrs. King School in Edith Moses' Unofficial Letters of an Official's Wife. So this was my source. It was published in 1908. And also a diary of hers, on April 29, 1902, which talks about a copper king's mines that existed in Benguet, in the fringes of Baguio. And accordingly, it was situated along the old Benguet Road, and the school was founded by a certain C.H. King. So that's the King Camp School. Now we don't see it anymore. In fact, if you're going to read the narrative, it's so nice because it says, when we visited the school for the first time, we heard them singing, Hail Columbia, something like that. And then they described, the curriculum, and then they described what facilities they saw in the school, and then how the pedagogy of instruction between a student and teacher. It was really fascinating, how she described it. And of course, it was an assertion in that presentation that Igorot children were bright kids. So at least they saw that. Now another school was the Buwa School for Igorot Boys. That was, as we mentioned earlier, from 1901 to 1906, right? It was founded in a sitio in the barrio of Antamok in Itogon, Benguet. And I was able to at least tease out data on this from my dissertation and converted it into an article. So I said, I entitled it Educating Mokimok and Chinese, the Ibaloys at the Buwa School, 1901 to 1940. In fact, I said we can come up with more because there are already a lot of pictures about the Buwa School, and we can already reconstruct the history of the school. So who was this pioneer lady? It was Mrs. Alice McKay Kelly. So this is Alice Kelly. And the picture you will find here, not too closest to me, was when she set up a campfire, with girls, no, and that's where educational opportunities took place. But that was when she was already back in the U.S. No, so Mrs. Kelly founded this. Okay, her very first school, the Bua School. I found this in the collections of Jerome Beers, no, Thomas papers, in the Cecil Green Library, Stanford. So it was labeled as 1902, the Tid School, and then we can still follow it up, no? All right, another school in 1902. All right, this is from the University of Michigan Museum of Anthropology, right? And again, showing you another side, no, a much improved structure for the Bua School. And of course, we have the pioneer boys, the students, no, of Mrs. Kelly. No? And if we recall, no, if we were to read, no, the Educating Chinese and Mukimo, what actually prompted Mrs. Kelly to at least invite an Ilocano, Mrs. Hippolyta Cumilang, to teach weaving, the Ilocano weaving here in the Cordil in Benguet, in the Bua School, is because, the Ilocano peddlers who come up to Baguio to sell, woven tradition, sold it at an exorbitant rate, no? So she said, why not invite a teacher to teach weaving? And that started it all, no? So, but the boys never did the weaving. Of course, these were the girls, no? Okay, that's from 1906. So again, another picture, now we got from Stanford, of these boys. Okay, see, they now have, they now have to cover themselves, no? Okay. So, and there's a very nice story about how Mrs. Kelly taught English, no, to the kids, no? But it all started with, of course, one chief, no, who had to visit her in her tent, no? And it started with a good morning greeting, right? So she said, "Good morning, Mrs. Kelly," and then they had a repeat performance with the chief, no, who had visited him. And then when the chief was able to use the greeting perfectly, he was rewarded a can of sardines, right? So it was an incentive. So the following day, he brought a lot, no, of an entourage to train again this greeting. Unfortunately, the joke was they never dropped the Mrs. Kelly part of the greeting. That's why when Judge Burritt, Henry Burritt, and even William Howard Taft himself visited Baguio, they greeted them, "Good morning, Mrs. Kelly." Right, okay. So at least that's quite fascinating. Now, if we continue with the story, even Francis Willis himself, Berks Willis, in his barbarous journey, I think you uploaded that, in one of you will find a story about the Bua School. And it's in a geography book. It's in a geography book teaching, it says there, it's wash day at the Bua School. Now, just to continue with this story of Berks, you will find this. This is Mrs. Kelly, no? And you see it's bathing time for the boys. Now, I did corroboration of sources. I got surprised where did they ever get that very big tub? No? Okay, but yeah, over there, no? I found that in the Library of Congress. One of the newspapers there said, Mr. Howard Taft was gifted this tub. Unfortunately, he was too big and he couldn't be accommodated in this tub. So he gifted this tub to Mrs. Kelly. And now Mrs. Kelly is using it for his boys. Okay, so that's it. And then there's a very nice picture of this. This is quite nice, but there's one in Ateneo de Manila too, that presented this picture, and Mrs. Kelly is where? The one to your extreme right, That's Mrs. Kelly. And of course, you look at our boys here. There's another picture. I didn't include it anymore here, but Marquardt, Walter Marquardt at one time had pictures with our Igorot boys. Okay, so the so-called Mrs. Kelly School, that's another name they gave for the Buwa School for Igorot girls, was a boarding dormitory school founded in 1906. This is already for the girls. And of course, you will see this picture again from the Bureau of Insular Affairs, which will show us, no, the pioneer school. And a closer look of the Buwa School is this. So it's no longer made of the Tid house that we saw earlier. It's now a bit concreted. No? So they said it's a dormitory house. Okay, so this is one part of it says dining room, no, at the Buwa School. I was fortunate to have I saw this picture at the Halsema Collections in Norfolk, Virginia. Huh? All right, next this one, no. All right, I think this is now you will see this readily in the Google image, no. This is from the Bentley Historical Archives. So it will show you, no, how girls were really unhappy, going to school, no. But Mrs. Kelly had to talk it over, with Chief Fianza, and to convince them that the girls need to be taught, no. At first, of course, the community didn't like, because girls were very useful for gardening, no, in their farms. But eventually they gave in. So, they were not happy at first. And then later on, after 2 weeks again, you will see them now holding these books. And they're now studying. Okay, that's another picture. No? You will see here, you see a lowland teacher, a teacher from the lowland, very, very young. Doing archival work is really something. No? I remember when I also did work on education during the Spanish period. And in fact, I have a paper also on, I haven't edited it and published yet, on teachers, the feminization of the teaching profession in the 19th century. And I have there Spanish teachers who were deployed in the Cordillera region in the 19th century. Ang ganda kasi miss pa lang sila noon, mamay nag-asawa na. And they get transferred from one place to the other, no? Thanks to UST, because they were able to send Mrs. Rivera then to Spain, and they funded it, so she was able to complete her Guia de Forasteros, where this data you'll be able to find, no? On pioneer teachers. And see that, sabi nila, ang babae, during the Spanish times, already had cedulas, and the youngest, the teacher I saw, no, was 14 years old, based on the cedula I saw in the archives, Spanish archives. 14 years old. Ibig sabihin, nagturo na siya. Teacher, right. So again, a teacher from the lowlands. No? So next, you also have here pupils from the Buwa schools, Buwa Girls School, Benguet, 1910. So very cute ladies, no? Right? And then there's another picture here, no? We got this from the Teachers Assembly Herald. So most of my data on the Baguio Teachers Camp, no, came from the Teachers Assembly Herald. Unfortunately, it's only until 1914. So we have to go beyond that, no? Mr. Dr. Dizon, no? Lino Dizon from Tarlac State University already did a history of the Baguio Teachers Camp, no? However, we could add some more, no, to it. All right, this is a Pharmacite teacher, Mrs. Freer, so who visited the Buwa School. So again, another picture. This was lifted from a book in 1914, no, showing Mrs. Kelly and the Buwa girls, Buwa School girls. Again, another picture from the Teachers Assembly Herald. All right, this has been used also by DepEd recently. I saw, no, when they were talking about the history of education in the region, and this was actually lifted from. I got this picture from the Halsema Collections. So that's the provenance of this picture. And I would have wanted to submit it before to UNESCO, no, but upon looking at the date, no, I think what the other one when we attended the conference was presenting to the UNESCO people was much older. It was 1800s. This one is 1900s time. So again, weaving. Take a look at pictures of how Mrs. Kelly's weaving school, no, progressed through time. All right. So very nice. Halsema Collections. Okay. So there. Very nice. Some pictures you will also see in the NARA, National Archives and Records Administration. Of course, the Igorot girls, who were taught at this, for the first time, what do we see? Their needlework, right? Needlework. And this one naman is lace making. So this is part of the curriculum of the Buwa School. And of course, the best education that they had too was baking bread. So you want to have good fresh bread, okay. I don't know if, I haven't been there for a long time. I don't know if they're still, I think the two Ding sisters are the ones baking now the bread. I don't know. All right, so again, we have here embroidery class. So these girls were also taught, dancing. And in fact, they were very, very good singers. Now you might be wondering, I was also wondering, how come they had colored pictures then? And I came to know when we were discussing with Dr. Patafable, now that these were mostly postcards. If it's colored, okay. I would have wanted to buy also a picture from Mike Price. Mike Price has a very good collections of rare photos, including postcards. Unfortunately, he said he's not selling it because he already promised it to one UP Baguio faculty that UP Baguio will buy it for $5,000. And when I came back to the Philippines, because I was so eager to borrow and to use it in my dissertation, like the library told me, that never exists. And they don't have it. That's it. $5,000, no? Okay. So anyway, I'll add another picture. Now, why am I showing this? Because in the Forbes, in the journal of William Cameron Forbes, he would always tell them that they always stop the Buwa School girls to serenade dignitaries who come up to Baguio. So Forbes will always invite these dignitaries to his home, and Mrs. Kelly will also bring these girls, and then they start serenading the guests. And that's how they came to learn of this. Ang ganda pa ng kwento, Mr. Forbes will talk about how these Igorot ladies, for instance, would be so envious because they were gifted, They were gifted a mandolin, while the other one was simply given anong tawag yung stick where you put the candle at night. So she was not happy about what she got as wedding gift. Why give me that, But eventually, she realized that it was very useful for weaving at night. Okay, so that was it. Now this one I just lifted from the Baguio Centennial Yearbook of 2008, where Mrs. Kelly was seen as an angel, descended from heaven, among the Cordilleras here, So again, I don't want to give any interpretation, whatsoever. I'm just presenting it to you, the way it is. And then later on, you will see other pictures of Mrs. Kelly in the Library of Congress. I did not include any more. Those I found at the Houghton Library in Harvard. They have very nice pictures also of an Igorot teacher, Edith Itang. She became a teacher, a former student of Mrs. Kelly. And her pictures are in Harvard, in the Houghton Library. Sayang, I didn't include it here. I think it's in my hard drive right now, external drive. All right, so this is the private ventures. They need not necessarily be government schools at first, but they were initiatives done by wives. Okay, so the next one would be an Episcopal Anglican school, founded in the city. Now, why so? Now, take note that every colonial regime, just like the Spaniards when they came to the Philippines, would have introduced cities. The urban areas, cities are a colonial phenomena. Take note that the Westerners will always build a home, replicate a home away from home. So they'll bring it here. They'll modify the landscape, to suit, how it was. So they had to convert Baguio into a garden, city, because that's how it was, in their place, And if you see Baguio's climate has always been likened to Oregon, to Adirondacks, in New York, or to the Murray Bay in Canada. That's how they compare our weather. Alright, the Easter School was founded in 1906, originally as an industrial school for Igorot boys. And many of them, no, these boys were drafted, no, they came from up there in Mount Bontoc, no, and they had to hike for days just to be able to become the pioneer students of the Easter School, right? So mas nauna pa ito, no, kaysa sa St. Louis University, because you know the Belgians only came in 1907 and they started putting up their school in 1911. So, but the Americans who came built the Easter School in 1906, and then by 1909 they built the Baguio School for American Boys. So we're very specific about boys because that's how it started, no? Brent started with 9 American boys. No? So it lasted until 1918, you know, because Father Brent has to join the World War II in World War I in Europe, no? And that's the reason why after that the Brent had to reopen in 1921, and by 1925 it became a co-educational institution. It had to invite now girls. Girls are now welcome, but because girls were not welcome at first, there has to be spaces not to be created for American, white spaces for girls, no? And that exactly was the reason why the Cathedral School for American Girls was built only for 5 years. Why? There was no space for them. No place. In fact, the school had to transfer from one place to another. Dormitory number 4. What's dormitory number 4? Casa Vallejo used to be the site of the Cathedral School for Girls. Unfortunately, they had to be evicted from Casa Vallejo. Why? Because Baguio had to welcome the Germans. No? There were a contingent of Germans who came up to Baguio. They were prisoners, no, of war. And that's the reason why even in the construction of the market, right? And some structures in Baguio were care of the Germans who were paid, I think, 75 centavos a day, no? Okay, so that was how, no, the Germans got involved. And they stayed at dormitory number 4. All right, so and then later on, they transferred to Luneta Hill, no? Especially in the mess hall, okay, of at one time at the government center. But the very last year, no, take note, it coincides with the closure for the meantime of the Baguio American School for Boys. That's 1918. Where was it held? The last day of classes was held at the House of Forbes, topside. That's the topside, and that's it. It ended. No more. Okay, so here's Right Reverend Charles Henry Brent. You know, a very nice source also of documents for the Episcopal group is the Trinity College. They have an archives there, and it's nice to look, at that. The other one, if you want to go overseas, apply for a grant. It's in Dallas, Texas. It's in there. If in case I get another, let's say, I'll be fortunate, then I want to see the documents, because it's totally, at one point there was now a breakage, right? A discontinuity regarding the Episcopal Church in the Philippines and with that of the Episcopal Church in the United States. Nagkaroon ng miscommunication na, no? Okay, so that's okay. Thanks to Erlene Alcantara, no? Erlene Alcantara used to mount exhibits, no? Not only in Marinol or the Baguio Convention Center, but also at Easter School, no? When Easter School celebrated its centennial, she was in charge of it, no? And I was fortunate to have borrowed some of her pictures, such as this, no? So the very first Easter School. And who was the most celebrated student of the Easter School? You have here Hilary Clapp, no? Pitapik, right? Pitapik. They have very nice names. In fact, in my dissertation, you will find their names of the students. So you have the Paran, no? May mga ganyan siya. Kaya, basta magagandang pangalan nila. Alright, so that's Pitapit, and you look at the metamorphosis, no? How he has changed, no, into, let's say, this educated man till he became a doctor politician, no, in Mountain Province, and he died during the Japanese occupation. Of course, that's his adopted father, not the father who priest who adopted him. Now, of course, that's another picture of the dormitory at the Easter School. Of course, another picture of Easter School. Of course, Easter School through time. Again, another picture of Easter School. Another picture, right? The founding of the Easter School's industrial arts happened when Mrs. Hargreaves came over already. So when they all started to accept girls. And this is one thing nice that about the weaving, how they have described the weaving tradition in the Easter weaving. What did they say? The colors, I'm reading the last sentence. The colors and patterns look something like American Indian work. So you might be asking me, is weaving really a tradition in Benguet? We don't have it. It's the Ilocano. It's an Ilocano import craft. We're just lucky that our fauna and flora would provide for tints that so we can come up with very colorful weaving designs. Because if you go to Mindoro, it's very earthly naman, brown, blue, white. Okay. Anyway, here's Mrs. Hargreaves and the girls at the Easter School. Right, weaving at Easter School. It's the backstrap, the weaving. Okay, the first pioneer students and their teacher, Okay, thanks to Erlin Alcantara, for all this. Okay, thank you. There. Okay, other pictures which we already got from the handbook, on the missions of the Episcopal Church. Okay, this is now care of my husband. When he took pictures of Easter School today. Okay, so that's how it is. And of course, that's the high school department. And of course, now it's Easter College, no more the Easter School. But I came to know when I interviewed Dr. Santiago that Easter School is a semi-private school. It's partly supported by the government, our LGU. So that's it. Now, what about the Brent School? That's 1909, the very first students at the Brent School. So I got this from the American Chamber of Commerce Journal. So now, why is it that they have to put up a school? You have Brent schools everywhere already. In Manila, you have also one. But why Baguio? Take note that they love our weather. Not only that, they had to adjust to acclimatize to the tropical climate in the lowlands. Many of them get sick. Many of them die. In fact, many of them catch tuberculosis, and that even led to the founding of what we call the Heights Place. So you now have I think Mrs. Ex-Director Tan, Venus Tan, was able to get Japanese to donate the sakura, cherry blossoms, right? And they planted it at the site of where the Heights Place used to, parang Victory Liner stopover when you go up the mountains, Yun yung lugar na yon. And that's the reason why he got well. He did not go back to the US to recuperate from tuberculosis. He had to go to this Hatok area. Why? Because air is clean, it's good, So he recuperated. So instead of the colonial government spending so much to send these young boys to the United States, and they study there, why not put up a school for them in the Philippines? Now, you will see here a segregation. At first, this I didn't understand, Why set aside the school for Igorot boys and another for the white boys, Okay, the explanation there is these boys are being prepared for education in the United States, while the boys at the Easter School were being prepared for the industrial life in their villages, in their communities. That was what they used as a reason. But mind you, there were instances in the documents which will tell us that many of our Igorot mestizos, our boys, were disallowed from acquiring education in Brent School. Another one was, for instance, Icard, right? Joseph Icard. The father even went as far as Silliman University to get the dispensation from Brent so his son can study at Brent School. And they didn't allow, right? So, exist pa yan? Okay, anyway, these are articles. I'll not dwell into that, Okay, so these are things that you will encounter in the archives. Okay, other pictures of other Brent schoolboys. You have there Charles Brent with, well, the boys. Dumami na sila, hindi na lang 9. Okay, pictures of toddlers now with Mrs. Bridgers, no, at Brent School. Okay, another picture of the Brent School, right? Okay, right. That's old pictures, no? So we have here the Brent Ogilvy Hall, 1901. Okay, this I got from the Library of Congress. It's the Brent School dormitory. So this is the Brent Ogilvy Hall at present, right? Okay. Now take a look at this picture. We have now girls. Ito na yung Cathedral School girls, no? That they accepted. Okay. Of course, a picture of the Baguio Government Center, no? So Mr. Jang, Engineer Jang, had been uploading a lot of pictures, no, of the Government Center. This will be an added to the addition to your collection, right? So this was lifted from the Halsema collections. So again, another colored picture of the Government Center. Fronting now, I think you posed a question, no? You posed a question regarding what was surrounding the Government Center. And of course, I had to respond. Oh, I can see where UP, no, has been constructed, no? So it's in the Luneta Hill. Well, it's just in front, no, of this structure. Now, how did the Cathedral School look like, no, when it was still occupying the mess hall at the Luneta Hill? This one. This is the Cathedral School for girls. Right? It's still part of the Government Center then. Huh? So, this is only one picture that I found. Right, this is dormitory number 4, right? Okay. So, it used to hold, as I've said, the Cathedral School for girls. And then later on, it shifted to the German prisoners of war. And then we have here the top side. Again, whenever we discuss with Dr. June Prilbrecht, no, before the pandemic, we would always debate, where is this? Because, you know, the Good Shepherd sisters will always say, they even have this marker in front of the prayer room saying, this is the remain, no, okay, of the top side. And they're actually referring only to the rock wall, no, the stone wall that you find there as having and when I was researching in the net, I also found a few scholars who said that's it. They were affirming it, no. But but Dr. June Prilbrecht would say, and I seem to see some old pictures of also. It's usually a structure that would overlook. Na you see Mount Santo Tomas, and you will also see the Pakdal place. That's where the original top side, no, is found. Okay, so this is a picture of top side again, and it has a label there. Halsema Collections, and then a front and back. No, is it back picture of top side? Okay, ito yun eh. What does it say? So it's actually there's a view of Mount Santo Tomas from top side. Okay, so the Santo Tomas over there. So where was it really located? Is it really in the Good Shepherd place? And there's already a marker there, and this is what this one. This is another view of Pakdal Hill from top side. So you just imagine, no? So tama ba yung label nilang iyon? I tend to believe Dr. Brett, but you know, we still have to dig into this. So again, we have another picture of top side. Now we have the CICM and ICM institutions, no? That's St. Louis schools. So the very first one was St. Patrick's School, no? Founded in 1911. And then later on, we have the St. Louis School of Campo Filipino, 1913. And then St. Louis Trade School, 1916, although that 1913 is also the trade school. St. Louis School Center, no, 1911, and it eventually, no, 1921, no, when it was, I guess, lent out by the fathers, no. I told Ma'am Annie, no, that their first lay directress, that we can already make, no, a history. Let's come up with a history of St. Louis School Center, because I think they will already leave the place by 2029. the fathers are already getting back, no? So enough na, no? You have to go to Lagilian Road, no? That's where you'll bring your students. So before that, no, NHCP, no, has to do something because it's a heritage site. No? Okay, and then we have here the St. Louis Laboratory High School, no, 1945. Now the encircled structures were the St. Patrick's Church, Our Lady of Atonement, and the Mission School. So this is this encircled picture, no? That's Session Road. You see that Session Road? Okay, very nice, no? That's how it looked like. And then a closer look at this picture, right? Okay, thanks to Sir Centeno and Peralta, no, I was able to get this. So take a look, very nice structure. So wala pa yung cathedral. Yan ang magiging cathedral na, no, paglaon. So we have these founders, no? We have Serafin De Vaz and Father Florimond Carlo, no, who would found out the very first trade school, no? So the St. Louis Trade School, why did they say 1921, no? Kung ito yung katabi ng no, this is different. This one is different, thanks to Mr. Carino, Joaquin Carino, for this. So take a look at the trade school beside St. Vincent Church. O, Ma'am Easter, dyan tayo nagkasama noon, di ba? O, yan. Kaya may pinagsamahan kami yan. Okay, right. She used to work also in our library before. So, and then ano na yan, o, di ba? It's withstood the test of time despite the earthquakes and the like, it's still there. No? So, a picture of this co-ed school, right? Of course, I used to have a picture of, I also have this, but I didn't use it, no? I used another sample, of course, yes. And then come 1936, no? And the war, take a look at the war, no? St. Louis even held classes inside tents. Inside tents, and you have the under tents, no, whatever. So, classes went on. And of course, if you're going to study Philippine history, there's a reason there, no? You know naman how the Catholic Church for a time had been very ambivalent in its position. At one point, it was really supporting Japan. It was supporting the Spaniards. Of course, the elite Spaniards were really supporting Generalissimo Francisco Franco, who was then an ally of Japan, right? And then Mussolini, no? And that's the reason why, you know, we also see this ambivalent status then of the church, but they were allowed, no, to operate. Of course, then here is the St. Louis School Center, no, which in the 1960s and 70s. No? All right. Okay, next we also have other St. Louis schools, no, such as the St. Louis Lucban or St. Louis Aurora Hill, 1968. We have Don Bosco schools, no, by Father Renato Vernac. The Don Bosco Lucban or Don Bosco High School, 1952. Don Bosco Prep School in Quezad, 1968, and in Lucban, 1976. Don Bosco Elementary School, December 1976. St. Louis Pacdal, 1969, and it was given government recognition in 1974. And we have St. Teresa's College, 1952 to 1973. Where is the St. Teresa's College? It's where St. Louis, it's in how's this? Navy base. It's where the St. Louis, anong St. Louis yun? Boys High. Boys High. That used to be the site of the St. Teresa's College. I was so fortunate to have at least communicated with Sister Nebres, no? And I asked her why did you end? Tatlo sana ang ano to, no? Tatlo sana ang ICM schools dito. You have St. Louis Campo, St. Louis Assumption, and St. Teresa's College. So I think some of our friends here are graduates. Ang ating mga Salinas sisters, Salinas Ramos, were products of that. Venus Tan, I guess, graduated from that school too, no? Okay, so it ended in 1973 because she said they had to. I mean, no, sisters were already sent abroad to study, and that's the reason why they had to phase out, no, as the smallest ICM school
to give way. And I went, although when I did a validation also with a student, a former graduate, she would say, no, because she related events that led to its closure, martial law, 1972, no? And that was their contention. And so that's the reason why it had to close. And it used to be, you know, we say elite school. I graduated from Campo Filipino, no? Okay, but yun ang elite. Ay, hindi pala ako graduate in well, elementary pa ako noong 1973. No, hindi pa pala ako nag-aaral noon. Ha? Okay, sige. Tawanan ako ng jowa. Bata pa ako. Okay, pictures of St. Louis Aurora Hill. So, yes, 1968. Pacdal. So, this was how they looked like then, no? St. Louis Pacdal. Don Bosco schools, no? Okay. Now, there's another school, no? We have to be familiar with. It's the School of the Assumption Sisters. Now, this is what I was contending, no? There's you see Assumption Road there, right? Huh? When you walk up Session Road and then you go to St. Louis, there's an Assumption Road. That used to be a property of the Assumption Sisters. And yet, that's why I keep on saying, you should also include them in your history because you are situated in their property. In fact, there's a picture here, no, which will show you Montgomery College, Baguio. And what was that? It's the St. Mary's School that they founded. Yun, ang paliwanag doon, yun yung dormitory ngayon sa St. Louis University. Yung ladies' dorm. That's it. That used to be theirs. And what happened? Well, this is the story, no? They when they were expanding their schools, no, to accommodate other courses, they did not buy, but they did an exchange. Now, the CICM fathers have a property in Crystal Cave. They have a property there. And these are the sisters. So what they said, we already have our school here, can we exchange? I think that started the swapping thing. But the name Assumption Road is still there, which is reminiscent of this property of the Assumption Sisters. So it used to be Montgomery College, Assumption College actually, and then it became St. Mary's College, and then now, if you go to Crystal Cave, it's the St. Martin's School, and it used to be a school exclusively for IPs. Those who were evicted, from Burnham Park, all this with its development, so they had to send their children there, so that's the St. Martin's School. This I got a description from Worcester, to validate that this school really existed. So he said, the Sisters of the Assumption have erected a handsome building which serves as a rest house and a girls' school. The sisters, known as the Belgian Canonist Missionaries, again, that's in 1914, are erecting a building which will afford them a place to come for recuperation when wearied by strenuous work in the lowlands, and will make it possible for them to open a school for Igorot girls, which they are planning to do. Okay, so again, these are old pictures, I got, describing the very first convents. Okay, rest houses. See? Okay, ito yun. This is what I was referring to. The picture, take a look at the label. It says Montgomery College, Baguio. So that's it, no? So Montgomery, Baguio, Benguet. So when we were tracing this nito, some interviews, they said it's the ladies' dorm. Okay, so St. Martin's in 1964, right? It used to be Mary's Primary School, St. Mary's, and this is now St. Martin's. If we go to Crystal Cave. Wait, please tell me if am I exceeding? Okay, so if we take a look at these pictures, we already have additional schools, and they will always mention Assumption College. So it did exist, in the maps made by Parson, in 1913, and it was later on used by urban planner, Dichoso, when she did this her article. And then later on, there were more schools. So you will see there, oh my God, I cannot read it. Eastern Mission School is now mentioned, so reflected in the map. Constabulary Hill, it's another school, Okay, and then we have the Assumption College and the Baguio School. Okay, this time let's take a look at the Dominican Maryknoll sisters. So if we take a look at the chronology, the Maryknoll Convent School started in 1937 and it ended as a Maryknoll Convent School in 1977. They started with 3 Syrian girls. During this time, especially 1920s onwards, Baguio was a cosmopolitan city. If you will see how they were described in documents in the archives, they were able to take note how many were Germans here, how many were Swedes, how many were English guys, Japanese. It's there, and you will see that Baguio was really a cosmopolitan city as early as that. So, and then later on from 1977 to 1999, it became Marishan. There's pala 1947, Atab School. This was a donation to the sisters. But I guess Atab School is no longer existing. Awanin, I don't think it's still existing. And then come 1999 up to the present, it's already known as Maryknoll Ecological Sanctuary. So and now it's an ecological park. Should we want to visit again, that place. So you will find this in the digital archives of in the United States. If you just source this out, you'll be able to find these very first structures of the Maryknoll Convent and Retreat House. So pioneer sisters educated there, such as St. Mary Fidelis and her charges, 1934. Okay, that's Sister Anne Elise Gallagher, 1947. So another picture, of course. Sayang, hindi ko pala pinakita yung picture ni Sister Gallagher ngayon, And then, of course, she died already. But this is the Atab School. I think it's no longer here. But it was donated by the Suelio family. That's what the records say. It was donated to the sisters, So, this school, did you ever hear of it? Ma'am Bridget, nandiyo dato Pelletier Hill School. Yeah. Have you seen it, ma'am? Yeah. Wow, wait. It's nice to hear Ma'am Bridget later, Okay, because this school is no longer existing, But where was it? Where was it established? This Pelletier Hill School of the Religious of Good Shepherd existed from 1952 to 1973, and it served as a residential school, meaning the school as well as the residence. So, doon na rin sila nakatira. At the same time, was founded on November 10, 1952. It was initially housed in the cottage, the only available structure then, that the Batangas community built, it says. There too emerged the foundation of a store. Okay. In March 1953, Father Pearson started to build a log cabin. It was meant to be a summer vacation home for the auxiliaries of St. Euphrasias and the girls at St. Domitilias in Quezon City. By 1923-1953, it was ready for St. Mary Anfiel and her 36 girls. From June to March, the log cabin was used as a dormitory for the girls in Baguio. And then, sorry for this, it's crowded. But upon the request of Bishop William Brasseur, the sisters' early ministry was religious instruction to Igorot girls in the Mines View area. Simultaneously, the Pelletier Hills Residential School, a child care institution that provided residential care and schooling, was also started for young girls who were morally threatened, it says, due to illegitimacy, a broken home, parental neglect, abandonment, unsuccessful foster home placement, conflict with adopting parents, and a so-called immoral environment. Because some of them were children of GIs. Some of them came from Olongapo, yung mga prostituted women then, So they were abandoned children. And of course, Father William Brasseur cannot accommodate all of them. And that's the reason why he had to negotiate with the sisters so that they be given care and education. So thus, its purpose of existence was for prevention and re-education. Now, it's so nice, no, that when I was looking at pictures, no, of their former graduates, many of them are already abroad, in the United States, and they come home, no, to have the reunion. My God, mga tisay. Mga tisay, anak ng mga you know, very beautiful women, no? Okay, anyway, they're already, some of them passed away. So, but this is, it says, enough food, a home, and a school. So that's how it started. So take a look at the students, no? Okay, and then their home used to be, the school used to be called Rose Virginie Residence, or the Pelletier Hill School, 1954 to 1957. Okay, they're graduates. Now, there were other schools in Baguio. Now, we also have the Chinese school. This is the Baguio Chinese Patriotic School. Now, this we have to validate because I saw some sources saying it's 1919. Okay, but documents will also say 1921, no? But the Japanese school was founded in 1924 and it ended in 1945. Abong Foundation has a map of Baguio in the 1930s, and they really identified, no, where the Baguio Japanese Elementary School was established, no? So we said earlier, one was at the Good Taste Restaurant now, no, and close to Burnham Park, and then later on it was transferred to Lukban Elementary School. Oh, it's so unfortunate I didn't take pictures, no, but I have pictures of the Japanese school, no. Okay, as of August 1, 1904, only 3 public schools were recorded for the Benguet province. And according to the report of William F. Pack, no, 1906, it still mentions, no, 3 schools in Baguio. So 1904, 1906, only 3 schools. So in his report about Benguet, no, he would say that education for Igorots, no, pursues the same lines as those in the several Indian schools in the United States we have. So again, we see here a comparison that they always make with schools of the Indian population in the United States. And that one central school, it says, which is also a provincial school and a boarding school in fact, in which are housed, fed and schooled 100 Igorot boys. And if you will come up with a corroboration, no, what were they referring to as central school? It was not the Baguio School of Clarence Patrick. It was the Baguio Trade School at Orengao, at the teacher's camp, and which City High is saying that's where they started. And therefore, sabi ko nga, kung pag-iisipan ko ang Baguio City National High School, di ba 1919 they say the foundation is 1919, and then later on it shifted to June 20, 1916. That's correct. That is if their basis is the first secondary school. But in their basic rules and regulations, they say they started as the Baguio Trade School on 1902. Huh? Okay, anyway, let's continue. And then there's a school for Christians, it says, in La Trinidad, which averages over 100 pupils, and a school in Bua, which is an industrial school for native girls, teaching them weaving and housekeeping. So again, it talks about the 3 schools. Now, another school was the Constabulary School. Well, October 25, 1898, again, this is another bone of contention, no, in the military, no, as to whether it was really shifted or transferred to Baguio in 1905 or not. No? Okay. But on October 25, 1898, you have the Academia Militar founded in Bulacan. No? Aguinaldo is very much involved here. And then come January 20, 1899, eruption of hostilities between the Americans and Filipinos. By February 5, 1905, we have Brigadier General Henry T. Allen, officer school for the police force of the Philippines, or Philippine Constabulary, was built to address banditry, cattle rustling, and local rebellion. No, it says. Come September 1909, General Orders number 24 dated August 1, 1908, relocated at a military reservation in Baguio. Okay, I think this is more acceptable now, no? But the Constabulary Hill, later named Camp Henry T. Allen, after General Allen's death in 1923. February 4, 1916, the Academy for Officers of the Philippine Constabulary, o Academia para Oficiales del Cuerpo de Policía de Filipinas, was again founded there. And on September 8, 1926, you have now a Philippine Constabulary Academy. December 21, 1935, Commonwealth Act Number 1, that's the National Defense Act, led to the foundation of the Philippine Military Academy. But come 1936, May, PMA was held, classes of the military was held at teachers' camp. And there was time sharing, a time sharing arrangement. It says, on March 15 to May 30, public school teachers usually held their summer annual in-service training. So, hati sila. And ito namang teachers, military MA had to hold their tent city or a model of a summer camp at Polo Field. So that was the agreement they had with teachers every summer. So again, it closed its doors on December 8, 1941 because of the eruption of outbreak of World War II. June 28, 1946, the academies was reconstituted as a unit of the post-war Philippine Army. May 5, 1947, PMA reopened at Camp Henry T. Allen, formally reopened on June 7, 1947. And come May 20, 1950, PMA now is holding classes, its military training in a 373-hectare military reservation at Fort Gregorio del Pilar on Luwakan Road, Kias, no? Okay, syempre, masalimuit na kwento to. Kasi if you're going to read Baguio Midland Courier during this time, you will see that there were really issues, no, of IPs, no, who were evicted, no, from their land, because of this, construction, no, of this school, including the airport in Luwakan, no. I actually met I don't know if it's Mr. Tagde, no, but engineer, I forgot his name, but he was telling us that used to be their property. They used to the part of the airport, and until now they were not paid a single cent. That was what he was telling me, no, when we had the informal talks. Okay, so let's take a look at some pictures I got from Stanford. So you have the general view of the north end of Baguio. That's the Constabulary School on top of the highest hill, it says. And then a closer look at the school. Halsema Collections. Tignan nyo kung saan pinaghuhugot ang mga larawan ko, no? Okay, from north, from east to west, no? And then this is another picture also of the Constabulary School. And then come 1936, no, they held classes at the teachers' camp, no, at teachers' camp. So this is it, no. So other pictures. Of course, you have there now in the Parsons map of 1909. You have now the addition of the Philippine Constabulary. Now another. Sorry, I hope I'm about to. No. We have the Baguio General Hospital School of Nursing. So it was founded in 1923 and it ended in 1984. No? So take note that Baguio was meant to be a sanitarium, no? For if the Spaniards have La Trinidad Benguet, no? Baguio, we work for Americans, no? And Jerome Beers, no? One of my sources for some of the photos, opened a sanitarium on February 2, 1902. And it's so nice that they even have a diagram of how it looked like. Oh my God, I did include here the picture of the very first sanitarium. No? Okay. So it's not SM. It's not SM. It's not there, no? But it's somewhere, I think, Court of Appeals, no? The sanitarium. Yeah. So 1907, it was renamed Baguio Hospital. 1923, the School of Nursing. And 1937, the Baguio Hospital was renamed Baguio General Hospital. So ito, 1914 na picture ito no? So, okay, may mga mas nauna pa dyan. Now, where's the School of Nursing? This is the one. And then you have here the label. I don't know if you can see it. It says there, School of Nursing. So when I went to BGH, I said, may I look at some of the pictures of this was what I got, and they said, what is it now? It's an OPD, outpatient. It became an outpatient department, but it used to educate the IP, IP women, the locals, and they were very helpful, especially during the war. All right. So next, we have, of course, the Baguio Central School, no? And it has appeared only in written narratives. Of course, you will hear a different story with oral narratives, and it has even been published in newspapers, no? Philippine Daily Inquirer, no? But if you take a look at the structure of the very first central school, it was only built sometime in 1923 under the administration of Eusebius Julius Halsema. So this pictures I will show you came from the Halsema collections. And it was a certain Okubo Teruji, no, a Japanese foreman, assisted by Noburo, his father, a horde of Japanese carpenters, Igorots, and migrant Ilocano and Pangasinan workers who constructed the school. Right? Just like the pioneer students of Baguio City National High School and minors. That's what they really had to come up, no? Because and there's children studied there. So ito, sorry hindi maganda yung camera ko noon, ano? Okay. But these are very old photos, no, of how Baguio Central School was initially constructed, no? And then take note, they also talk about a Gabaldon school. They say it's a Gabaldon school, it's a heritage school. That's right. But Isauro Gabaldon only came up with this law sometime in 1911, and it has allocated 1 million pesos for the construction of Gabaldon schools. So an example would be, when we say Gabaldon school, it has something to do with the structure, no? Very, very wide windows, no? High ceiling, no? Etc. Such as what you see now as structure of the Central School and Quezon Elementary School. I was so fascinated upon looking at telephone directories, and as well as statistics, no? Statistics in 1939, that Quezon Elementary School was named New Baguio Central School. And if you will trace, no, ibig sabihin, ang dami palang Central School. They were founded everywhere kasi meron din isang dokumento nasa nasa may government center. Okay, so these are pictures of the first Central School, no, Halsema. So collection ng tatay ni James Halsema ito. So it was built during Eusebius Julius Halsema's time. So ito siya. This was how it looked then. And then there's this foreigner who visited Baguio then, and on July 12, 1924, a British traveler to Baguio described, it says, the structure of a big school he saw as he wandered along the City Hall. And that was actually referring to Central School, no? Okay. Now, Baguio Central School, a Gabaldon School, no? This is what we have to check, no? It's considered as another Gabaldon School or Gabaldon. Actually, the term was coined by its creator, Assemblyman Isauro Gabaldon of Nueva Ecija, by Act Number 1801, or the Gabaldon School Law, which was ratified on October 1907 pa pala, on October 16, 1907. And this act appropriated 1 million pesos for the construction of permanent barrio school buildings, such as this, no, for primary instruction. Of course, this is now a picture of how it was renovated through time. And then this is what you see, no? Actually, the old Central School that you will find in documents was actually the Baguio Industrial School for Igorot boys. That's the Baguio Trade School, no? From 1902 to 1912. And by 1912, it became a Baguio Intermediate School. All of these were all housed at the teachers' camp. And then this Baguio Central School that we know of here, that's 1923. And then the new Baguio Central School, Quezon Elementary School, 1937 pa pala, no? See, there were several, no? Okay, now it says here, the old Central School, Provincial School, Dormitory School was again being referred to as the Baguio Industrial School for Igorot boys. Okay, hindi nga 1902 pang sinasabi ng iba, 1901. So, ganyan katanda yung eskwelahan na yan, which we can locate, situate in they sometimes call it the Barros Balay. Barros Balay, no? Balay. That's the school, no? This is the Baguio School for Industrial Boys, yeah. And then 1912, Intermediate School. And then 1916, we have a normal secondary school. That's, when we say normal school, it's a school that train teachers, no? Okay, it's a training school for teachers. And then from 1932 to 33, that the normal school was transferred to the Trinidad Agricultural School, which will now be the Baguio Benguet State University. So I also have a brief chronology of the Benguet State University, because we used to have a Baguio experiment station where we planted the vegetables, temperate good vegetables, right? But they only grow up until this. So, I mean, there's really a problem. And that's the reason why they had to transfer all these, this experiment station to Trinidad. And that's how it all started, no? So, that's the Trinidad Agricultural School. Again, this is the Barros Balay, the Baguio Industrial School for Igorot boys, no? So, again, teachers, students of Mrs. Kelly, boys at that, were transferred to Baguio by 1906. Alright, so here is also another picture of the industrial school at Teachers Camp. So the dormitory building of the Igorot Boys School at Baguio, completed in 1908. Take a look at this, no? This is from the article of Travis, and he will show us boys at the trade school sewing, doing pagbuborda, no? Okay, sewing, okay, needlework. Okay, this is another picture, no? Okay, already from the Teachers Assembly Herald. This one I got from Stanford, no? So showing us the boys at the Baguio Industrial School. Of course, this is one thing we didn't know, no? Whenever they come up to Baguio during the summer, Filipinos, sabi nga, almost 70% were Filipinos. Only a few Americans came up, no? And many of these Filipinos didn't like to go up to Baguio. It's so boring, and what will they do at Teachers Camp for a long time? Now, what was their solution? They had to introduce sports. And that's the reason why, no, from then on, athletics started at the Baguio Teachers Camp. Competitions started there. And that's why you will see this uniform, no, of players. So who were opponents? You will see that in the net, no? It's Easter School versus Bua School. May ganyan? Okay. So these are, another would be the Baguio Orchestra, the industrial school, no? So they had also a music. Sayang yung picture ni Mr. Lovely, no? He was even conducting, no? Okay, the first graduating class, no, of the Baguio Intermediate School. We used to have that, no? Okay, and this was from 1914 to 1915. Okay, and then this, of course, is a structure that's no longer existing, I guess, at the Teachers Camp, no? I think this is the Albert Hall, if I'm not mistaken. And other pictures, no, of Teachers Camp. Of course, Trinidad Agricultural School is not in Baguio, no? But we were once connected, no, with them, because half of the time of our boys, when they were studying agriculture, part of their curriculum was agriculture, was to do it where? They go to Trinidad, no, to learn. And that's the reason why the farm school and agricultural school was always done there. So from 1905, it already started as a farm school. And then 1916, it became the Trinidad Farm School. Alright, so early pictures of Trinidad Valley. So very nice. And then, I'm sorry, this is a very small chronology of my Trinidad Agricultural School. Now in fact, we can already come up also with a history of Trinidad Agricultural School. But I guess Stephen Anomos already came up with one. No? Stephen should also, Professor Anomos should also write something about mountain roads. Because I remember I was invited to be part of his panel when he defended his dissertation in Diliman on mountain roads. Yeah, he should come up too with a publication on that. These are pictures I got about the Trinidad Agricultural School. So, ito muna siya, no? This is how it looked. Okay, yan, no? So, yan. So, okay. Right. Right. Of course, we made a contradistinction between a farm school and an agricultural school. So, other pictures, no? Okay, these pictures too, no? From of the dormitory, Trinidad Agricultural School. O, ito din, they also compete, no? Okay, and other primary schools much later, you have Lukban Elementary School, 1922, and then elevated to an elementary school. We have Loacan Elementary School, 1928, Quezon Elementary School or New Central School, 1937. So you will also see in the maps, no, of this time, they chose na lang ito, general plan of improvement. You will see now the existence of several schools in Baguio. And then come 1985, what is that? Where is SLU? No, became now a college. 1952, right? It became a St. Louis College in 1952. Okay, so again, what about UP Baguio? We started, we didn't have a UP Baguio. UP Baguio is very young, 1961, at the College of Arts and Letters at the Government Center. So it used to be UP in Vigan. And this is the project we intend to do, with some of my colleagues, because we need really to come up with a history of UP Baguio. No? So perhaps Ma'am Bridget can help us there later. No? Okay. So 1961, we have now the UP Baguio, UP College Baguio. And then later we had the UP High, UP Baguio College, no? High school pala. And then it was phased out, no, toward the latter part of, I think, 1990s. And then 2004, we became an independent, a 7th constituent university of the University of the Philippines system, right? And then, of course, our conclusions, no? So I just discussed, I just lifted this, no, from my dissertation. If we want to know more about the others, let's have another session. Okay, so that ends my presentation about schools. That's it. Perhaps Ma'am Bridget, no, who was really an eyewitness to all this, would be able to help us, no, with answering later your questions. So thank you very much for lending me your ears, no. Okay, thank you. Mamister.
No question and answer time.
Okay.
Anyone to interest in during the curious one, you can question and answer time.
Yeah. No time for educating Chinese and Mokimo. I also have it here. It's okay. Some other day.
I'm wondering your collection of all the photos and then some the chronology of the developing of the schools. But I cannot really see like a curriculum or textbooks.
Okay, it's in my dissertation. It's in my dissertation. It's the narrative is in my dissertation. I expressed earlier that I cannot really discuss the entire thing in a 2-hour. I cannot discuss the entire thing in a 2-hour session. Of course, we have. It's there, the curriculum, including books that they use, including statistics. No, I have a lot of statistics. No, in fact, you saw that in the town-gown linkage, right? Toward the end, I have a lot of statistics. I have it. You can get that from the report of the Philippine Commission. Yeah, it's all there, the curriculum, etc. But for presentation, I just had to limit it to what is readily available. Even my topic on the town-gown linkage, the one you uploaded, I felt I find discomfort about, because that was the data that we have there is 2014, 2015, right? And much has changed, especially now that we have post-pandemic or new normal. You will hear expressions in the last session I had with teachers, and they would tell me, oh, yung 6 sections namin dati, ngayon 3 sections na lang. Okay, but Tagalog, you can understand Tagalog. No, sorry. No, I was just telling that I met some teachers and they were already complaining about the dwindling, declining number of students enrolled. So that data might not hold water anymore. So it needs updating, if ever. Yeah, but all the this you have to come. Welcome to UP Baguio. Welcome to our library. You can read. Unless I have it published.
Sadly, during the presentation time, the portals, all the documentation, especially the surrounding United States, it came from the United States.
I got my data.
Yes. sadly that kind of the photo or the collection of the archive cannot find in Baguio.
That's right. That's the reason why
So-
you have to go.
You have any idea regarding but how did have to develop to necessary need? So can new generation can access the all the archive or the cooperative in the all the government level or all the schools or the university. A lot of having the live presence here, but they don't have archive. They don't know the past what they have it. That's the one really very sadly have to develop. I thought.
So what you're trying to suggest is we come up with a collection of all these, and then
Any idea? Do you have some proposal to can develop to access the on the all the in Baguio someone?
Yeah.
Here.
yeah. In fact, that's what we're doing right now. No, that's what we're doing right now as the Baguio Heritage Foundation Incorporated and Baguio Historical Research. No. So we can actually join forces. But the problem is this, no? Sometimes it's so difficult to share pictures, no? Because some of us have signed an agreement, no? Let's say in my case, I signed an agreement with the Cecil Green Library that you are not even supposed to publish, no? Not unless they are really informed about it. Or if not, no? I know that I think 1920s and below, you need not seek their permission. But for other documents, you really have, for other pictures, you have to inform them. That's the problem, no? Data privacy, they're very strict with data privacy. They're also very strict with copyrights. Now I'm having problems too with let's say UP, no? I requested for an article. And because we are not part of the consortium regarding that article, they sourced it out from LaSalle. We cannot even download the article. It's just for us to read online, but we cannot download it. These are some restrictions really regarding intellectual property rights, copyrights. And it's, while I understand your sentiment, information really has to be shared for free. But sometimes we're constricted too by certain, policies in the libraries we've visited. No? So, I think I still need to go to Cecil Green personally. That would mean spending so much just to can you lift this provision and allow me to publish your pictures? Okay, I could do that. No, once I get another grant, hopefully.
The public level of the develop to can able to making access to all the documentation. I think the potential also the many documentation. Someone past was living here, the old people and generation next generation, they holding the many I think photo and all the documenting.
Yes,
How
yes.
can will be donated
Yeah, because
the library in here, so can remove the copyright a little bit, making the flexibility.
Yes, that's nice. No, we can actually do an effort to do that. We can write families, no, if they're willing to donate. The only problem also with some, no, is the problem of preservation. How I wish now we can equip, let's say, because I think the Ma'am Easter here is being tapped now to be our to be our repository. No, her space will be our archive, Baguio Historical Archive, right? Okay, but we also have to equip the library so that they will be able to preserve. No? Okay, I think there are issues on humidity. Yeah, is it a dehumidifier? You know this thing, no? And then how you handle documents there. Because in the United States, you really have to wear gloves, no? I had an experience of, they just gave me a box, and I was so surprised when I started opening the box. It's very muddy, freshly picked under the ground. I don't know, but it was a Japanese paper. So I had to use mask and gloves. No? Yes. And then, of course, restrictions also that you have to make regarding dapat non-acid. And may mga, these things you have to have technical know-how. So, Ma'am Esther has to study archiving, no? The digitization. No? So, we would request City Hall, no, to send her to school for archiving classes, no, diba? It's very important. And then maintenance of an archives. So a librarian is different from an archivist. An archivist is different from a curator. So they have different kinds of trainings. And if we're going to do that, then we really have to send Ma'am Esther to an archiving school. So we will be able to have a very nice Baguio historical archives. Yes. So that's just the point, no. We would love to collect, no, but I remember that was the issue with the Cordillera Archives of UP Baguio, because some family, in fact, in the United States, one thing nice about presidents, whenever they leave their post, they leave behind all their documents and they come up with a presidential library. Not in the Philippines, none. So it's so hard to document. Now, what were the accomplishments of this? None. We cannot speak of anything. But there, it's all documented. So problems they encountered, no, during their time, because they come up with a Gerald Ford Library in Michigan, you have an Obama Library in Chicago, like this in our country. So I think we have to, be able to let's be conscious about it. But what we can initially do is write families, no? So would you be able to donate? The problem too with pictures is the date. So you always see there, circa, it's approximately. So that's the problem also. You see series of pictures, very old, very nice pictures, but they're not properly labeled. So how will you address that? And then take note too that there are some documents which are highly confidential. That's why sometimes when we take pictures of it, the people at the National Archives and Records Administration would give you a piece of paper and it says confidential, and you have to post it in the document you use that this is confidential. And sometimes ethics is concerned, right? If the person is long dead, fine, no? But what about the relatives? And you write, for instance, a controversial issue about the family. Sometimes it's so difficult not to, bring that publication into the open. The family will be suing. That's it. That's what you found in the archives. Huh? Okay, but that's a case. I know that we have researchers in the university who have encountered that problem. It's a nice study. It's a pioneering study, but we have workers, relatives who are still working in the university, and it might really cause trouble. So that's the problem with data in the Philippines. Yeah.
Yes. Ma'am, would you like me to read one of our viewers?
Sure.
She has a question here. It's from Ruth Claire. She said here, Ma'am, if there's a dormitory 4 during the American era, do you know where the other dormitories are? Example 1, 2, 3?
3. 3. I guess it's if I'm not mistaken, 3 is Camp John Hay, no? 3. Because I remember they had to transfer the teachers and the students of Brent School. No? But the first one that they bombed was John Hay, no? Magnet of Fatah. And then they had to bring all of them to Camp Badodangwa. That's another school. Sorry, I forgot to discuss that Ruth Claire. We used to have a Camp Holmes school. Camp Holmes Interment School. That was during the war, during the Japanese occupation. I have a very nice chronology of that in my dissertation, no? Of how it has started and how it has ended. And in that dormitory number 3, it started as that. They even had to go to get rid of two subjects in their curriculum, history and geography. They erased that in the curriculum. But James Halsema, no, and together with his other teachers, had to, they say it's literature class, but it was really a time to teach history and geography without the Japanese knowing. No? It's very nice. I was also able to gather documents from a very small library in Ohio. That's the Otterbein Library, and they have the Father Brett Schacht's documents, and it talks about the Camp Holmes Internment Camp School. I haven't processed it yet, but I was able to collect it. Huh? That's the number 3. But the number 2 and number 1, I haven't, encountered it yet. The fact that my interest was on education. Huh? But I remember that even in envelopes, addresses, it says dormitory number 3. Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
So, what else? But the Baguio, oh my God, that's a very nice school, no? Yung Camp Holmes, and it's no longer existing. It's now Camp Bado Dangwa. It's for the military. But I have a map, no? I found a map, and it's one of the diaries that was published already of one former student, no? And it showed there a high school and an elementary school. And in a Tribune document, the propaganda was so nice. You will see a field trip of Japanese kids, and then bringing with them bananas or boiled egg, and then they'll go to Trinidad at that school, and then you will see there the internees, children of internees, who will be receiving the eggs and the banana. So it's, of course, take a picture, propaganda, right? The generosity of Japanese. Okay, but there are some issues, no, that where you will read, no, in documents. That's another school. There's another school I forgot, no. The precursor, no, of the Philippine Military Academy. It's a secondary school. That's the Baguio Military Institute. BMI. Now, where will you find the structure? It's still there. Go to Irisan, close to Sablan. I think that's beside the St. Joseph Church in Sablan. You will find a very old structure. I have pictures, but sorry, I forgot to include it anymore. No. Now, you cannot even enter, no? Hanggang silip-silip na lang kami, no? When we were doing, I worked with Dr. June Prilbret, no, one time, when we were doing cultural mapping. I don't know if Dr. Bokiran was around too, but one school I visited personally was the BMI. I was not allowed to enter, not unless I write kuyisan, because I think they're the ones administering that structure already. It's a very old structure. It's dilapidated. But that's the BMI. Now, if you go to Ateneo de Manila, I saw a lot of pictures of the Baguio Military Institute there. Yeah, BMI. And I think the founder is still alive. But he's not here. He's in somewhere in Atok, yata. So, I hope I'll have lots of time to catch up, no, with all this. But Baguio Military Institute used to be a secondary school, and it's a preparation for the military school. Yeah, that's why sometimes if you see, I try doing that, no, updates on the BMI, no, I hope to hear. You know what will come out in the updates? It's Philippine Military Academy. Yeah, it's very nice, no. They're all gone, but the structures are still there. Oh, yeah. And this was our issue too last time when we had the training with NHCP, no, regarding markers. Liberation markers are gone. Wala na yung liberation marker natin sa Cannon Road. Wala na yung liberation marker sa Marcos Highway. Pero meron pa yung sa Negilian Road. Nasa harap lang ng Recoletos, no? And just beside, very close to the police station. There's a liberation marker there. But the one along Cannon Road, wala na. And then yung libingan ni di ba, nasa San Carlos Heights ni sino na ba itong my God, hero natin, Amkilit. Right. Yung libingan niya, it was just blasted for road construction. Wala na. right? San Carlos Heights. That's why I love talking also sometimes with pioneers in Baguio, because you learn a lot of stuff. No? Okay, so this is it. No? So we need really to document. And any other question?
That's all, Mom. Somebody, she said it's root clear. Oh, I see. So that it's the story behind the assumption in Crystal,
Okay.
and Crystal Cave. Thanks for this information, Mom.
Yeah.
So that's.
Although who knows, no? I just conversed with 3 people. Perhaps if you can have a conversation with another, no, it might enrich the discourse, no? Yes. And let's we're open. Any other questions? Yes.
May I ask, what were the qualifications for young teachers in the early years of education in Baguio?
Are you referring to the American?
The Filipino.
Yeah. Unfortunately, while there were qualifications set, it was never followed. Because it was really impossible, no? If they say that you can become now a teacher at the age of 18. But as I've said, no, if you go to the archives, the youngest teacher I saw was 14 years old. So that's not what is being said in the archives. There's another, if you give me the chance later, I could talk about migration in the professions, and that it's particularly the teaching profession. And it's there, it's detailed, what qualifications are necessary. No? So one qualification, for instance, is you should be recommended by the parish priest. Good moral character should be issued. And until now, I think it's being practiced, no? Yung certificate of good moral character when you apply for work, no? It's there. Another is, of course, your age qualification, but as I've said, it's only in print, but not in actual hiring, because it's so difficult to hire. Another I remember is your willingness to be deployed to other places, no? Especially, I'm referring to 19th century. And that really happened, because if you're going to trace the list of teachers, let's say in the 19th century, making use of Guia de Forasteros, no? You will see that at one point they were in Benguet, and then later on they were in Abra, no? And then later on, this was this person, and then after some years she changed her family name. And you can already deduce some inferences from the data that you get. There are other requirements, but during the Spanish times, I remember the priority for teaching were males. And then later on, because males really have to go to war, and then due to lack also of teachers, to go to places, so they started to hire women. And that's how the labels Don and Doña also started, no? It's not it used to, for us, it's an economic, it's a status, no? Label for a status, not a family. But Don and Doña is a label for professions, no? They can say Doña Easter Wahaina Pablo, no? Okay, so being a librarian, right? Okay, a doctor, Don. Right. we can actually set a separate discussion, because the qualifications during the Spanish times is also different during the American times. But what I can assure you, no, is that it's not necessarily followed. It's just in print, right? Kasi qualification civilian teacher, and yet it's a military thought, And what did they teach? It's not really the very first, during the early years of American education in the Philippines, they practically made use of Spanish materials. And therefore, that's the reason why they had to recruit teachers from abroad. So you have the USS Thomas, right, and then Sheridan. No? You have a shipload of people coming up to Baguio. What's just so interesting are our qualifications they set for American teachers to come over. It's so interesting. That would be another
discussion. So that you will invite me every now and then. Okay, we can discuss that for another session. Ma'am, you would like to add?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much. The first time in the library, first time to meet the librarian, and I hope to come here more. Although I'm flabbergasted at the PhD and MA dissertations all around here. I'm in the pre-departure area with boarding pass, so you will excuse if I will make a few remarks. I know Chap, of course, from way back. No? First, Okubo Teruchi is the grandfather of Patricia. Okay. And among those you mentioned who were not able to go to school, because I was hoping to see this afternoon, and this is especially addressed to the city librarian. I was hoping you could show the city, and that's why I'm very sad that the younger people are not here, especially those who are in the planning and in the education departments. They should understand that a lot of their problems have found solutions, not because it was by the Americans or the Spanish or the Japanese, but people find education as the most important tool of colonializing a people, and therefore they pay very close attention to that. So first, after Okubo, the Japanese school was in what used to be called the Sarati building, or where you now see Chowking across the Orchidarium. The Chowking there, that was the building of the Japanese school.
Not the one that not the spirits disco.
No,
Is it-
not
is it
not
the
good
Sarate?
taste. No, not good
Not
taste. The
good
Sarate house is the Chowking.
Yeah.
The Chowking
Ah,
place.
I see.
The Chinese school has a very nice history, and I think you should talk to the children of those who are here. It was built practically on the BIR
Yeah.
payment of only one Chinese trader on the mountain trail. I am talking from the point of view of undocumented but local history
Yeah.
that gives the other side of what happened to the colonials when they attempted to teach us to be Americans. Oringao, that's how we pronounce teacher's
Not
camp.
Kalinga, yeah.
Oringao has always been the center of education here.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
carried our desks from Baguio teacher's camp to the new building in 1954. And we did go to school there, and everybody I know went to school in teacher's camp one way or another. That's Oringao. And the religious schools had very special functions. And I am surprised that they have better documentation here, and yet it was in the public schools where people mixed. And to me, that's more important, the public education of the Cordilleras. And when you talk of schools, you cannot talk of, you cannot forget St. Mary's in Sagada, and
Yeah.
the Balbalasang School in the Kalinga, and the Kiangan School there in Kiangan. These were where the churches put themselves down, educated the people, and in many ways shaped the psyche of the Cordilleran. And the great divide between the Anglican and the Catholic Church. The Catholics came much later, actually. And there's the Cordillera Sus group, so you only have Anglican, you have UCCP, and you have the Lutheran schools that were all over the Cordillera. And these were the ones where you found the first educated local people. That's how they got educated. The other has to do with June Brett, of course. She's a very good example of what happens to somebody who is colonial and then marries a colonized and then is excluded from the colonials. So my remembrance of the by the way, I am a graduate of Baguio Central School. Yes, that is a Gabaldon school. It is a beautiful school. And it was the school of the Cordilleras then. It wasn't just us. Our classmates came from all over the mountain provinces because their parents were here. They were the first educated Cordillerans, and they were in the city working. So our classmates came from all over. So as far as I'm concerned, Baguio has always been multi-ethnic, multilingual. And all of this talk about mother tongue and what is this, curriculum, and et cetera, they keep talking about in the education. department was all done by the schools before. The trade schools, for example, were to teach the children how to serve the people in the mines. That's why they taught them how to cook. They had to serve the miners. The miners were the biggest people here. So when you talk of education, we have to look at the development of this. And I hope that some future researchers, your students maybe, will look at Baguio as I thought I would see this afternoon. Yes, from a colonial hill station and R&R, it was supposed to evolve into an educational university city, no? And that's why you will find the best lands here belong to the religious orders because they were asked to put up the schools. Not because we were going to be Catholics or Lutherans or Anglicans, but they had the money because they had American pastors and ministers. There were no Filipinos yet. And if you give them the best land, so Camp Allen, Campo Filipino, Cathedral, where St. Louis, where Assumption is, where Pelletier is, these were all hills, mountains. You know, if you look at the pictures in teachers' camp, it will show you. The oval came much later. So when they put the soldiers here and the teachers there and the high school here and the vocational school here, it could be done because teachers' camp is so huge. No? It includes up all the way to Outlook Drive, down to Forbes Park and up to Country Club. Those are all of teachers' camp, and everybody has a memory of teachers' camp. If you grew up in the age I belong to, or my generation. Last but not least, I'd like to appeal to UP Baguio especially, and to City Library. I am so enthralled by what I read. But I read that and I don't see that even, I'm very sad that the City Planning Office and the CHED and the DepEd are not here this afternoon. So they will understand the Vocational School of St. Louis was what? The silversmithing. It's the silver filigree. They started it here. The weaving of boa. They started it here. Now they talk as if weaving was only discovered by UP research 10 years ago. That's not true. They've been weaving here. And if you ask why did Ibalo is not weave, why will we weave? We have gold. We will go and buy in the ones. It's much cheaper. Even if you say it was exorbitant price, it was gold. We don't care to do the weaving. But we had to be taught to weave because the city was growing into more than just Ibaloy. And the city was growing into a tourist city. So the appeal, and thank you, Chuck, for giving me a few minutes, and Esther, can we return back to what it was supposed to be? It took me that's why I was late. It took me 15 minutes to come from the junction to come here. If I had known that this road was closed, I would have walked. And I would have been here in 5 minutes. No? And what is this? This is not the Baguio we know. We are building a Baguio for tourists. We don't care about our population. But I wish people would look, because during the pandemic, that to me is the best proof. When the pandemic struck, Baguio fell down. Why? It's not because the tourists disappeared. They will come when they will come. But the students disappeared, and the small and medium scale, and the housings, the dormitories for them, the economy collapsed. It is the students who have run Baguio all these years after the war, but they were never given recognition. So I am appealing to all of you here today. I would like to believe you have some interest in the education of Baguio. This was meant to be a university city. And to close, chat, the last thing that broke our hearts, and I think you can ask Steve Wood. UP was promised part of Chanhae when it was turned over to BCDA, no? For it to put the CSC and a very good College of Arts and Sciences. Baguio Colleges to put the School of Law, St. Louis to put Engineering and Allied Medical Services, and UB to put sports and something like this, education. That was what was planned for Chanhae. But what is it now? It's Christmas College, isn't it? And to me, who are there? Who are these making traffic here? Because I'm not from Baguio and we don't learn from them. The people who own all these huge hotels. From Baguio. From Baguio. Who's earning all of this money from all of this tourist trade? From Baguio. So, as I said, thank you very much for the opportunity. Before I depart, I hope to see some more people doing more work to bring the people who are making decisions in City Hall to forums like this. I think it is an insult that you have a very well researched paper and the people who should be listening are not here. I think you should ask the city to provide lunch, which they always do anyway, and let her talk again and let her show her statistics so that they will believe and not think that they can do it all in one day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Actually, we have posted this as an invitation, and this reading club has just started few weeks ago. So actually, it was the idea of Mr. Jang. Mr. Stephen Jang, and he came to me for a partnership for this reading club, and it's all about the history of Baguio. And we are very much glad that maybe slowly we can, we grow into in numbers. The first time there were only 7 of us actually, but it was posted in our Facebook page and it was shared I guess this was shared 42 times or 52 times. So there are a lot of reach already, and I guess they are aware, but then, the commitment. So that's it. But then, anyhow, I do hope that we can invite more, to join us in this reading club, because slowly we will be, having more topics to be discussed, and we'll be inviting more guests to talk about Baguio City. And by the way, the BMI was mentioned a while back. Actually, there is an organization, I guess the graduates, the graduates of the BMI came here. Really? Yeah, and then they donated a book. Yeah, they have the documentation of the BMI, the graduates. It's there at the local history section here at the library. And this is also an appeal to all of us here. We have the local history, but then there's not enough resources. It's very difficult for us to get the resources. Okay, so we're only going to Mount Cloud, and we are relying for donations from the community, those who are willing to donate their resources, the resources that they have, because we cannot find any more these resources. Although maybe CSC have this, but then we have to understand the procurement of the government. Okay, there is a procurement law, and it will undergo always yung bidding. Okay, so hindi yung, let's say, I will just go to the the bookstore and buy. No, okay, that cannot be. Maybe I can do that for a reimbursement, but then it's on a limited amount. It's limited amount. It's not that I can just get the books that we need here and buy and pay like that. No, it's not like that. So if you have a friend who are holding, these resources, and they are willing to donate, then why not? We are also willing to take good care of it. Especially if it's very important resource about Baguio City. We already have about BMI, and that's the first time that I heard, I saw the book, and then I said, hello, may BMI pala. We only thought of PMA. But before that, there was the BMI, So it's very interesting, So thank you very much, ma'am, for reminding us. And
I just said, you go to Ray Bautista, he's a BMI graduate.
Okay, so anyhow, they have donated their book here actually. And
You might want to invite Ma'am Bridget also to talk about. Yeah, invite her.
yeah, why not?
It's not an invitation chat, no. What I really would like to see is a more, that's why bugugugap tulo. I'll talk in Ilocano. Mr. Stephen, please, somebody will translate for you. Nagdakkel ti Korta di Historical Commission. There are 3 commission Baguio City history projects. None of them are definitive, and they spend millions on this. This heritage thing they're doing, it makes you cry. They don't know what they're doing. Why are we not linking the people who should be the ones to tell them what is heritage here? I mean, why don't they start with something like that? Why do they have to ask again for money to go and get the same pictures that are already there? I cannot understand this. The city of Baguio is in a state of flux. I would like to believe our mayor is trying to systematize. I can see a system in the city. I do not necessarily like it, but it is a system. I can see a system. I can see something they call digitization. I am scared to death of digitization. But there's money. There's money in City Hall. I saw the budget, and I was like, and then they will ask me, Ma'am, because I were in Camp 7, that's rural area as far as Baguio is concerned. And then they came there, abi nga da kayo ito, inbound da kami ni Kapitan, tahan na mo kanong answer na, kat niya ngayon ito sa Lutsudyo, anya may iti animals ito, hindi mo una. You know what I answered? Duwa ti sakada.
Talaga naman si Ma'am. Okay. Actually, Ma'am, meron kaming digitization project din dito sa library. But then, of course, we understand yung about the copyright and yung data privacy. As librarians, we understand also kung ano yung batas na ito. That's why we cannot really just, publish it and be accessible online. Yung buong, let's say, buong book. No? So, we are also bound by the laws that here in the Philippines. And I guess ang ating dito, we have nagtatago, wag ka magtago. Si Miss Carmen. Yeah, she's here, and I guess she can also share to us about ano ba yung ng copyright law, data privacy, di ba? Oh, nagtatago, attorney.
Are you referring to the mama? You're referring to the mama? The husband?
Okay, but anyhow, di ba, meron we have that laws. We have laws, So we cannot just, be able na in as much as we would like all of this to be, accessible to everybody, But then, yun nga, we will be sued also.
You're right. You write the books and write it now. Never mind the copyright. Worry about that later. But get the data now before everybody's dying. For example, the cemetery is divided into 2 circles. There's the road that goes around. Undas Gamine. Kayo ako takitaan nyo. The original middle was divided into 4. 1 quarter was for the Ibaloy. The other quarter was for the Americans. And all of their graves have since been built over. The other one was for the religious. So before, when we didn't know what the cremation was, the priests and nuns are buried there and then exhumed. That's why the tombs change every year. Now you cannot even find the grave of Halsinga because it is completely covered, no? And then the other one here, the other half was Chinese. So if you look at all of those Chinese there, the first stores that are here, you don't have to go and ask anybody. You just get those. And if you can read Chinese characters better, they'll read them in Chinese. And there's a Japanese cemetery. So if you look at it that way, you can do it. What I'm trying to ask both of you is the academe, your training, your process, your procedure, and your synthesis and analysis, which is so well done. And the money of the city, which is so big. Will you put it together and start documenting this thing? Never mind the copyright. They will get your copyright after. What you do now is get all of these people who are here this afternoon and assign them. Or you do the Japanese community, and you do the Chinese community, and you do this community. You go to the cemetery so that it will be done before it is all covered up. You will see them there. They are there.
And the cemetery is a very rich source of information.
Just to give you an
Historical
idea,
research. Yeah.
there was a lady from Berkeley. I don't even know where Berkeley is. She's from a university there. She came here and she was asking, where are the mulatto?
Ah, really?
Well, then I told her, the only mulatto I know is Mr. Stewart, and he's dead, and the daughter is there. He used to own the corner donut store. And then she said, you know a mulatto? Well, he's the only mulatto I ever knew in my life. And then I remembered, let's go to the late Judge Justice Bronner. Let us ask them if they know. You know what came out of that research? She went from Tuguegarao to Bicol, and she found those Americans who jumped ship. They were all Jamaicans, and they were in the band of the military, and the Broners were part of that. And they were able to trace all of this. They jumped and intermarried from Cagayan all the way to Bicol. Do that. As students, don't look for something about what is that, Murphy or Kelly. You remember I was telling you there is a Kelly mine. That is why she put her school there, because there is a Kelly
Yeah,
mine.
that's right.
And you ask the people, do you remember Kelly? And they will say, ang puti un puto. Any iba rin yun? Can you translate it? Ang puti un puto. That's how she got her Kelly mine. So.
Natututo kami, ma'am. Anyhow, I
Ang ganda
guess,
ng kwento nila mag-asawa. Meron ako doon eh. Yeah. Mag-asawa yan.
okay, siguro, ma'am, we have a project of the city naman, yung cultural mapping, no, sa city planning. So, I'm just waiting, actually the library is waiting for the copy that they will give to us. But then, meron pong project ang planning office, itong mga cultural mappers natin. Okay? Yeah.
Has it been validated?
Yun na nga
Yung mga publications na yan, has it been validated? Because they're not that's just my point. They just simply publish and publish. It has to undergo
Under
validation.
NCCA,
Validation.
I guess na naman ng NCCA.
Yeah, because I noticed even the memoirs of Baguio by Lazaro Gutierrez. I've read it and
But there are things there, Chuck, if you put Perez and Resurrection and
yeah.
all of this, you can see, you can find the truth somewhere. It will fall in line, no?
Yeah.
And somebody who read other things or who is related or who has some experience will validate it for you. The cultural mapping is something that makes my blood boil and my hair stand, because that is where they ask me the question, what kind of animals were here in and then what kind of animals, ma'am, were in jungle town? So I said, apes, they have 2 legs.
Tinanungan pala kayo. Okay. Yes. Anyhow, I guess, di ba ma'am Chat? I guess, siguro maganda rin we could, suggest dun sa research and development, itong mga who are getting the masteral and their doctorate to dwell into these issues, into this topic, no? So that it will contribute more, and I'm hoping na sana mag-donate din yung mga dito, because you see itong mga researches nito, thesis and dissertations, there are only few regarding culture actually. And there are a lot of people, students who are coming here to, look for studies regarding culture. So siguro yung research and I hope that you can come up with suggestion to Chet also, para at least yun sana ang maging one of the focus, no?
Ma'am, question. There's another question here from our viewers. She said here, you had an interview with someone at Easter and said that it is a semi-private school. How does the LGU support the school? In what ways po, ma'am? Any idea?
I think financial. That's what the financial.
all the while I thought it's an American funded. That's not true. No? So it comes from that's why it's semi, because it's partly subsidized by the LGU. That's what I learned.
And the Easter Women Room was put up to subsidize the
Yeah.
Easter school.
That's right. Another source of income for them. Yeah. In fact, in my work, I also mentioned vocational schools. I did not mention it anymore here, but there were a lot of vocational schools. But in the article about the town gown linkage, it's mostly higher education institutions.
Yes.
Yes.
One more time, you have to continue.
Yeah, please. I'm very much willing. I'm very much willing.
That's actually more important part, because how the Baguio, the city, became after World War II, during the reconstruction of the leadership of the vision, was focused. So I want to hearing about not only me, maybe all the Baguio residents. They want to hear about the more how became the Baguio became the university town or college town.
Yeah.
And now what happening? How can connect to the this smart city? This the one
Yeah. In fact, I have not even presented that paper in a conference. Yeah, so if in case I already have the published material, but I think this will be the first time I'm going to share it. Should you invite me again? I'd love to. No. Anyway, I don't have any social life. You're my social life. Yeah, please let me know. I'll really find time. Yeah.
Please
By the way,
invite yourself,
habol, ma'am.
Please invite yourself.
Yeah, ma'am. I'm already telling them.
Heritage and cultural mapping. Please invite.
Ma'am, they're not inviting eh.
Let's invite yourself.
I'll present myself. Kayak nga. But that's it. I am really after validation also. So,
There's no validation.
dapat meron eh. Dapat may validation yan. No? Isa pa pala, before I forget, I read also in 1947, local papers, that Ateneo was supposed to put up a school also in Baguio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
1947. It did push through. It's in the local papers.
You see the Jesuits,
Yeah.
they own that here.
Yeah,
You see
that's right.
Assumption, they
Yeah.
own this thing here.
Yeah.
Cathedral, is
Yeah.
legacy ICN.
Yes.
They own the best lands in
That's
Baguio.
right. Yeah.
And that was purposely done.
Yeah.
The public would be retained within teachers' camp.
Mhm.
And there were seven districts, 7 churches,
Yeah.
and 7 elementary schools
Yes.
to begin with.
Santo Daiji ko, ma'am, Forbes Park na kunada pa eh, right?
No, the
That's
first
very,
part,
very big.
that really was always the watershed.
Yeah.
The thing is, Baguio was divided in such a way that the barangays would have a church and a school. The Kabaldon schools. That's why it was New Baguio here, because it was Old Baguio there.
Yes, that's right.
So that's
Baguio
where
Center.
it was all. And then now we have 128 barangays, and all they do is make barangay halls. Never mind the schools; they're all falling down.
That's right.
But you look at the schools, no? Chinese school that was donated by Chinese businessmen. The Japanese school that stood until they collapsed that for Chowking.
Yeah.
Those were very well constructed because they were schools and they were done by artisans. Kasi look at all our infrastructure bursting all over the city. Because our engineers here, purak. But if you could just remap Baguio with the way they assign this to the schools, and then juxtapose the way the city grew. That's what I mean by the city should appreciate you destroyed your own city that had a plan, and it was not concentrated only in Burnham Park. Because even Burnham Park alone, oh my goodness, that is a nightmare. But look at how they constructed. You keep referring to government center. Yes, you were never supposed to see SM there. It was from the city hall to UP up here. And by the way, yes, UP was very, very early as the UP summer school. It was not a college. It was not
The summer school, it started as a summer school.
For those who flunk, they come up here, they like take vacation.
That's right now. We're going to, we hope to come up with a history also of Philippines. We dream to come with math and yeah, I think that's a challenge also to come up with institutional histories.
Yes.
Because many institutions are already long gone and yet in memories of people, they used to exist. Right.
You have question? I think you were raising the hand.
Need mic. Maybe we can have another session on pedagogy and pedagogy and curriculum. That's very nice.
I'll take this opportunity to thank my Lola there. There was this program that was recently conducted where they hold this Montañosa Film Festival. And me and Lynette was so fortunate to be given the opportunity to share whatever story we want in a documentary structure. When I made this film, my thought was only to get even to this cop who took our land. But what happened was that I was even feeling that that film was not complete at all in any way. That was basically an unfinished film. But when it started to be shown, I heard Manang Lynette that my lolo over there, yes,
Okay.
we were the only ones who were able to make it
Yeah.
under the documentary level. So my story was a scaffold farmer. It was an unfinished work because my kid really felt so bad about us making the film. He ran out. He left me. So I was not able to finish the film. But during that time that I was listening to the feedback of people, among which was the feedback of she said, that's exactly the story how the land of the Ibaloys lost their land. And then, sabi ko, hindi nga ako nanalo, pero na-validate ako ng historian. And I really appreciate her work when I was staying at the Capitol Library along with Ma'am Kit sa museum. She was the first one who educated me, along with Mr. Pikpikan and Ma'am with the Baguio Museum. In short, what happened was that because of that validation, I was having thought of whether, is this for real, is this just for me? Yung kwento na to is just my story. Pero what happened was that Ma'am Annie of SLU Center knew about that project and she came by and then she realized na we wanted stories like those that talks about the values and the culture of the people simplified in short 10 minutes so we can easily connect to the kids and hopefully connect history and connect the values of the people through that way. But I was so afraid to commit in that project because she said the teachers will be working Saturdays, ang bonus lang nila CPD with no pay. And Manang Lynette and me was almost about to, explode because bills are coming up. Manang Lynette was already spending too much. Abonado na nga, magpapakain pa. So the filmmaking was really, we thought it was an easy endeavor. Some of my colleagues even spent 300,000. And I asked my colleague, how much did you spend for the soundtrack alone? 15,000. It was so expensive. But eventually, because I did not win, I felt the drive to learn more. And I started learning more. Why? It's all because of her saying, that's exactly the story of our people. And it triggered me not to give up on it. And eventually, my kid came back. And then I explained to him what happened. This is the reason why I created the Cordillera Filmmakers Guild. A lot of filmmakers wanted to join, but I only wanted that the first member should be writers. Because this is where most film fail. We wanted this to be validated. The story should be for real. We don't want to replicate what these Manila filmmakers have been doing, creating and lambasting our culture, telling the wrong stories. This is the reason why I'm very protective in our group. In fact, the group of Manang Linet doing the documentation were supposed to be the original team supposed to work because I was not vaccinated. That's the reason I turned it down. And Manang Linet was feeling really bad. Galit na galit siya sa akin because of that, because she doesn't know exactly how to go through the process. And I really felt guilty of not exactly leaving her, but for not pursuing. Pero my friends are dying. August, ang dami namatay na friends ko. I was not vaccinated. That's the reason I turned it down. You were talking about, and Mom, and Lola is expressing her frustration about it not being done right. I think I know how it feels. I've heard stories. Now, the reason I stood up is because I'm beginning to realize the importance of education. And with my Lola expressing that, let's not just focus on some other things, let's focus also on the story of the schools. And a while back, our guy here was asking something about burial grounds. And I know the Ibaloy community will always have their parents buried on that land. I just don't know around the areas of Baguio City where those original owners of the land were buried. We don't know whether they were exhumed or removed. But my question here is, the reason I'm pointing this out is, we realize the value of film in preserving and bringing this short film to our young generation because the attention span is so low. And I realize also what Ma'am Annie's, ang dream ni Ma'am Annie before sana mag-retire is to be able to make a series of short films that our educators can utilize so our culture will not die. Otherwise, the culture of YouTube and the culture of Jollibee being showcased on YouTube will be the ones that will be inculcated to the mind of our kids. I asked my kid to eat. Ayaw niya ng beans. Gusto niya ng french fries. Dahil napapunod sa cartoon, french fries. And this is something that I worry a lot. Even my kid doesn't understand our history, and I'm feeling guilty that I am in a capacity to do it, but meeting you, sir, inspired me further that a person from Korea is doing more than a person from here. So seeing my Lola who validated my story gives me the confidence about copyright. The reason I'm so afraid is because of copyright. But there's a law in filmmaking that if the film clip is 8 seconds, then you're safe. But what is nice with our multimedia now, unlike in cinema, you cannot pause it inside the cinema. But on YouTube, you can pause it. So that extends the lifespan, and you can really scrutinize the content of the film because you can freeze it. And that's exactly what Ma'am Annie is doing. Is putting in mind. Kasi akala ko pangit yung film. DepEd asked me to present the film as film, what was the word that you mentioned a while back, ma'am? Film as a pedagogy. That was my topic. In pasubod ako ngayon, ni Manang Linet, kung nga iso nag-discuss, tapos on the spot, she asked me to talk about it. I didn't even know what pedagogy mean. But it was the principals and teachers who said, we love the film, we want you to break it down. Ma'am, hindi nga tapos yung film eh. But I told them, the film is not finished. Exactly what we wanted, because we want our teachers to research so they will complete the film. Uh-oh. Alright, that sounds interesting then. So we realized that what DepEd wanted is not a complete film, but a broken film. So they will force the teachers to break it down, research, and then expound the story based on their experience and based on their interview with their parents. So this is what I expressed sa FDCP during the time of Ma'am Lisa Dino, that, you know, Clint, sabi niya kasi sa labas, you may have not one, but you found the ingredient and the strategy how to use film for teaching. And it's only now that I'm about to connect. The reason that I stood up is because of those things, that the series of things that happened. I realized maybe there's a reason that I met the three witches.
Yeah.
The three witches. I'm so fortunate. I didn't know. Even the guys from the media who happens to be my friend is asking, bakit walang expiration ng ID mo ng journalism sa Midland? O nga, no? Ayun pala yung sinabi She told me before, because you belong to the Carino clan, I will not put in expiration. So you always take picture and the rest, until the rest of your life to support this newspaper and you talk about the story of your people. She did something that I will always remember. Kaya even Jogin Tamay was wondering, bakit walang expiration tong ID? So I think what you're doing right now, gathering really deep-minded people who understand history and the value of which, well, definitely this will grow. But the reason I stood up is I am now forced to educate these kids, mentor them how to make film, even spend the income of our boarding house to buy their equipment. Unfortunately, my frustration here is they don't have a clear-cut location or clear-cut, a good mentor who will train them and prepare them to become historian filmmakers. So nobody from the newer generation, maybe older than them, will question because their stories are coming from deep research. That's a circumstance that's worrying me na, am I going to do this right? Am I doing this right? So, these are my kids. They have the technology, but they need mentorship from historians like you. He recently took up the tour guiding training, but he was absent during the time of your discussion. That's the reason I called him. Make sure, cancel everything. The speaker there was a speaker you lost. You missed. And also my kid missing also, seeing her also. So, my question here, Ma'am, is, our kids are now being prepared to undergo scholarship overseas. And I wanted to make sure, construction sana eh, pero I shifted them into something about filmmaking, focusing more on minority stories, like our IP stories. So, foreign grants will come in. My question, Ma'am, is, how do you think should we attack that scenario wherein we have opportunities for scholarship, for film? How can we put it in the re-entry action plan for Australia or for other countries, so after their study, or while even they're studying, they can still pursue research and interview. They can send their fellow friends to interview while they're still alive. And we are still alive. We don't even know how long our life is now. So, how do you think should these kids contribute in the process so we can, retransfer our story in a way that it will be easy, digestible by our educators? Kasi the way I see, she's right. Educators, the education history matters a lot. I've been a tour guide for a long time, but the way she expressed it, I think really educators plays a vital role, and the history of education plays a vital role. Because in the end, we can never be greater than our teacher. We can always be as great as our teacher. So, may I ask, in your experience, in your engagement in the past, how do you think should these young filmmakers see their career as an ambassador of history, or how? Maybe you can share your experience, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah.
That's well appreciated. Film nowadays is considered, well, I must admit we have history wars now, no? And film is one medium now that is being tapped by history professors in disseminating information. A very good example now that, for instance, I use in my class is to teach them, let's say, what primary sources were used in the film. No? So that has to be shown. For instance, well, this is quite foreign, but I use it in my History 199 because it's a historical methodology class. Before, I asked them to watch Natalie Zemon Davis, for instance, The Return of Martin Guerre. It's quite very foreign, no? And it's even in French, no? But it has a dubbing down there. Now, you have, as an educator, you have to guide them, no? In order for them to understand why that film is being asked. They can read the entire text of Natalie Zemon Davis, for instance, no? But when you put it into film, you cut short the entire,
I think you know that if you watch Lord of the Rings, no, it's serialized, no, and then all of a sudden you'll watch in 1.5 hours only. You're missing a lot, no, a lot of things. But if I were to suggest, no, bring out, I think they're guides. I want to see in that film what sources were used. I want to see in that film, no, we have guides for doing film analysis. So, or what message can you bring them in a 15-minute film? For instance, how do you show reduction to students? Maybe they just interviewed three professors and then they gave out their views on, let's say, reduction. And it's really very educational already for students, no? So you process it as a teacher, and then you said, what is their view of reduction? And it's not even come from textbooks, but from how this mindset of leader of this you used as medium in your film has contributed a new knowledge which is not really found in the film, in the textbook, which is nice, no? Top people. Kasi for me, no, if I'm going to use film as a medium, it should really be historically based. I think that's the issue with Yamashita, if you remember that, Bagong Buwan. Kahit na film yan, you can make it naman very realistic eh. If it's Sulu language, if it's a history of the, then use the language. Why use a Maguindanao language as a substitute for, the speech in the movie? Make it a bit realistic, yun lang. And then, aside from that, for me, the opportunity is there. If there is a grant, grab it. I had a problem before, no? I wanted to do a history of Baguio, and what I see are all secondary sources, and iba full of interpretations of people. Marxist, mga karamihan Marxist ang pananaw, no? I want to see something, no, that I don't see here. No diaries whatsoever, yung mga first-hand experiences of people. That's the reason why I applied for a grant. And I'm happy that even if they provided me the grant, they will not meddle and tell you, after you finish, you have to give me the patent, the copyright of your film. It's not like that. In fact, they're even very open in saying, we respect your ideology. So if you're not pro like this, it's okay. But so I have to avail of that opportunity. Na opportunity knocks only once, so grab it. But what really matters is your perspective as an IB, or let's say as a culture bearer, when you bring that home. You were educated, let's say, in abroad, but what is innate, what is inherent in you, is yan ang ilagay mo flavor ng film mo. Yun naman ang para sa akin. So gaya nun, actually that's my dilemma, no, because I would have wanted to bring out, no, yung may ethic perspective yan no, inside the culture and one up from outside the culture. And many that I have used are foreign sources, no, archives. Yet sometimes it's good to see it from your lenses as a Filipino or as a culture bearer when you come up with a film. So kung ako ilalagay ko dyan yung kung ano talaga ang pag-aaralan mo lang naman yung technicalities of how to do it, right? But the content will still come from you. So yan ang sariling take mo tungkol sa paggawa ng film. Ikaw as a culture bearer, I mean, I don't know if the others will agree with me, no? But ang pag-aaralan mo lang yung it's the how of it, no? But in terms of the content, in terms of the spirit behind it, it's your own take. Yun ang akin.
What really hurts us whenever we pitch for a grant,
what really hurts us whenever we pitch for a grant is that since they are young, chine-check yung curriculum vitae, and if they realize that if it's something documentary, there's a big chance that they will not get the grant. So our issue now is, will it be possible for us that this grant will be under you as a producer or the writer when they get to execute? Because I'm sure as educator, you won't have the time to execute. But still, credential matter, especially with your doctorate. Unfortunately, it's quite difficult for them to apply for grant without attachment, without any form of attachment with a credible person who can really assert that this is something worthwhile to be funded. That's what we realized recently with NCCA. Tapos makikita na lang namin, ang nananalo, hindi naman exactly worthwhile even to be funded. And it hurts us a lot, especially those who loves history, that, you know, those who gets the grant are actually the ones who are actually altering history. So the reason I express this is because, will you be willing to help us apply for a grant while we execute it together? Kasi nasasayangan ako sa energy nila sa time. And this is the right time that we have this new technology where the camera is quite cheap now. Google Drive is now easy for people to access. We have the right technology to preserve culture in a way that it will be easily accessible, not just by people who go to the library. So my question is, in our Cordillera Filmmakers Guild, can you be part of the guild to mentor our young kids so the kids will have this confidence, including their parents, that the person guiding them are at least old enough? Because we have 5 who quit. Why? Because the parents thought they're not doing something productive out of their life. But if they get to meet doctorate people, and really people are really commendable, you know, mentoring these kids, I'm sure parents will even push their kids. Nag-aabuno na kami para lang pamasahin nila everything just to keep them. Pero I realize we need your credentials to win the heart of these kids, because they're the ones who need to, you know, propagate this culture that we're losing. So that's the things that we hope from you, ma'am.
With capacity building, no? We can have capacity building activities. Yes naman, I mean, I have my colleagues there, no? Si Sir Joao, no? And Ma'am Carmen. Sir Joao is a Bicolano, and see, he was able to come up with a very nice history of the Iwak community, using the perspective of the Iwak people. Yeah, and he's there. He would also join you, no? Together with Carmen, Ma'am Carmen and I. Yeah, but I think the level only is for capacity building. Yeah, because ito naman, whenever you apply for grants, you have to see what they're really looking for. And that's the reason why sometimes you really have to tweak your grant. Kasi lalo na kung IP, they're gonna tell you, oh, why do you still have to go to the US? Eh, kung ang IP nandito. Diba? Ganun ang tatanungin talaga sa'yo. Eh, ang perspective na pinalalabas mo, eh, para dito, they're not really give you the grant. So that sometimes you have to, you know, be able to see what would fit into the criteria that they're looking for. So, aside, kumbaga hidden agenda mo na lang yung personal mo. Kasi kahit kami, I do archival work, no? But all of a sudden, no? I saw this topic, no? Very nice. Kaya nga, halimbawa yung kinikwento ko, yung metaphors ko, I have a very nice, sorry, ako na naman nagsabi. I have an article on metaphors, no, that you use in describing Baguio using data I got from the archives. Halimbawa yung Baguio, Simla of the Philippines, Baguio, Mecca of the Americans, o Baguio, playground of the gods. These are metaphors. And it's not even historical, it's very much linguistics, language. And yet I found a parallelism between the two. Besides my exposure's interdisciplinarity, so I came up with a paper. So ganun din, no? Bagamat ang agenda ko talaga ay education, along the way, may mga nakikita kang iba. No? Pero sa paghingi ng research, ng grant, tiyakin ninyong tama. I mean, pag ipakita nyo, halimbawa, kung may kilala kayong nakakuha na ng previous grant, same grant that you're applying, humingi kayo ng tips. Humingi kayo ng tips sa kanila. Kasi halimbawa, nag-apply ako ng Fulbright, no? But I was taken. Why? Kasi my purpose is really, una, education. Swak sa kanilang ano yun, listahan nila, susuporta ng education. Pangalawa, archival research. The archives are there. And in fact, when I was asked, I was asked, why still go to the US when in fact the documents have already been uploaded in the net, they have been digitized. Okay, sagutin mo yun, no? So I have to answer. Anong sagot ko? But their diaries, letters, no? I have not been uploaded, and you will only get data when you go there in situ, right? So I got it, right? And not only once, twice, and I hope a third time, no? But what I'm saying is, you study what they're asking for. Kasi the privilege is there. Ang dami. Sabi ko nga sa mga estudyante ko, 2 bekas ang binibigay ng Mexican government. And nobody, no Filipino takers. Yearly. And if you go to a country, let's say, who does not really offer an English course, then you're really forced to learn at least a year, no, for language. May mga ganitong consideration din. You have and then have people comment on your proposal. Have them comment. Tapos tingnan nyo, ito palang sinasabi ng grant na ito. They will only subsidize or support education, women. Di ba mga ganon? Hanapan mo ng flavor, women. Pero IP, depende kasi yan pag tinanong ka minsan pag shortlisted ang mga applicants, at pagkatapos, IP ang concern mo. Tapos yung palang, the way you answer it, you need not go pala, you need not need the grant because your topic is more, your sources are here. Why still go there? That's it Kaya nasa mo rin yan proposal making mo. Pag-aralan ninyo kung ano yung requirements, and then see how your proposal can fit into what they want. But definitely, a film is a very promising pedagogy, as you've said, for history. I remember, we didn't push through with the partnership. Now there's one, Mr. Acabado from a university in the United States, contacted me once, regarding education, But what I remember, one of those that he was asking for, if I had knowledge about films on the IP perspective. So there's room, there's room for it. There's future for film. Kaya nga sabi nga ni Warrington, history goes to the movies. Diba? Meron na. Yeah, oo. Meron na. Siyempre, makikipag-away ka minsan sa mga traditional historians. Bunong braso kayo kasi ayaw nila ng film. Alam lang nila document, di ba? But there are already alternative ways of looking for sources. Si Joao, hirap na hirap sa documents ng Iwak community niya. Kasi, it's an oral community. So, anong naging source niya? Oral history, interview siya. And he came up with a very nice periodization of the Iwak community based on what the people, yung framework niya. Yeah. Ang ganda, hindi niya pinairal yung paging Bicolano niya. Pero frame perspective na galing sa katutubo. At I'm so happy, I'm so proud of him when he was given, this is your FPIC certificate. Diba? Yeah. And they recognize him now as their partner in Kayapa. So there's hope. Don't worry. Kaya lang yan nyo, i-tweak. Yung mga agenda nyo na lang, of course, you don't tell them during the but what I'm saying is, there's hope for film, for history in film. These are the in thing. Wala lang mga specialist kami dito sa Baguio. But ngayon kasi, gaya ng halimbawa, General Luna, di ba ang ganda nung palabas ni General Luna? But umpisa pa lang inamin na, it's fiction, right? It's fiction. But some of those, the contents there, because fiction kasi you cannot really reenact exactly what happened in the past. That's the point. So, ang maganda doon, yung mga katutuan, mainitin ang ulo ni General Luna, totoo yun. Nakalagay sa mga dokumento yun.
capture something, a very similitude of what you find in texts.
Chat.
Ay, hindi ma'am.
Can we just share for all of you? No? I'm glad to meet you. I only read what I read. And they're in journals and magazines that come out years after you've done all of your studies. No? But I just like to share that Benguet history was something we inherited in UP. We did not even like it because it was such an unwieldy thing. And the province gave us 54,000 only. But the more important thing was they gave us a jeep and they gave us a driver who knew where to take us. And the governor told the mayors, when they come to your municipality, you take care of them. But it was their stories. It was the mayor who called the big families together. And the families fed us and scolded us when we brought the Coca-Cola. Because that's not part of what they can prepare. All I'm saying is, you have the training, no matter how small it is. I would like to zero on Bicol, no? Because Bicol is about one of the best NCIPs I've met in the year that I was there. And they have one of the smallest IP communities. And yet they have shown these communities that they have respect for them, much more than the Cordillerans have shown the co-Cordillerans. So if, like Chat is saying, if there's an opportunity, you grab it. I'll just give you an idea. Can you imagine how much Lauren Ligarda has spent for Dayao? If you could have only cut the film into 10 minutes and focused it instead of all of those things that have to be repeated, she spent millions on Dayao. And that's government money. The city is spending millions on this heritage and cultural mapping. Why don't they give it to you to do the cultural mapping? You know what you're doing? But they employ people who came from MPSPC and then they ask, so who were the first animals first?
I agree. No? You really have to focus on.
It's what you want to do. Do it. Never mind. Like I said, worry about the copyrights. They will ask you for it if you have the material. Let it be revision and revised and re-edited and whatever they want to do with it. Let them. But the copyright will be yours because you got the materials. That's what happened to the Benguet history. That's why it is not authored by us. It is authored by the people. Go to them if you want to learn anything else. And it's the people. They fed us. They fed us. They fed us the pigs. They showed us their other sound. They showed us their pictures. We did not pay anything. Oh, but and imagine we were 8 from the youth, yeah? And the only thing we can brag about is we had a jeep, a driver who knew where to bring us, and the mayor. And we survived. And they published only what? 150 books that are no longer to be found anywhere. But the province did that. They will. Do not ask for 1 million. Do not ask to go abroad. You wait. Create the copyright and they will come to you and let them create the copyright.
Okay, so I guess we have to end here because it's already past 5:30, you know? Can you turn the camera? Saglit lang. Actually, ako rin kasi my children are already here and we're going to my cousin kasi they're already here and sana kasi actually ako I work Monday to Friday pro bono na lang itong Saturday so I have to stay here with the head of the office but then we're having an exciting discussions, no? So we just have it at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. sana kaya lang I understand that talaga namang it's getting exciting already because we are learning a lot, diba? We are learning a lot and we are very much grateful to have yung mga guest speakers, no? To talk about Baguio City. So we do hope na sa mga susunod na nandito pa rin tayo and we do hope to increase, no? To increase the numbers of those people who are here. So I decided to have it online also because I understand I have friends that they were telling me that they cannot attend physically, so they want also to hear online, no? And that's why it's dual kasi yun naman talaga hybrid na rin. So in behalf of Baguio City Public Library and the Reading Club, we would like to give this certificate of appreciation to Dr. Charita A. De Los Reyes as a token of gratitude for being an esteemed guest by sharing her valuable knowledge and expertise during the Reading Club Forum held here at Baguio City Public Library, given this 22nd day of October 2022. And of course, my simple token lang kami sa kanya to say thank you very much. Simple lang yan, actually, as in very simple.
Okay. I wouldn't mind. Ang sabi ko, I can come for free anytime. Just invite me. Ang kailangan lang formal letter.
Yeah, so...
That's just it. We just need it, no? Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just let me know. I'll make time. I'll find time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And of course, meron din tayong dalawang senior and you know, talaga namang we learn from them also, no? May mga insights sila talaga that we have to, lalo na kay mother. Oo.
Dapat pagsalitain niyo si Ma'am Bridget, ma'am.
Oo nga ma'am mag-guest ka rin.
Yan ang nais namin doon sa yung tinatawag nilang 3 niches.
Ano ma'am? Oo.
Finish.